It's your squeaks, bro.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you? Are you ready? You have a good voice.
Thanks.
All right, here we go. Ready?
That's what Mom said.
Rocket Man's Wheelhouse.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. Wylie Jones.
How's it going?
It's going, man. God, I'm glad to see you sitting in my house, man. I'm serious.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like what you did here, man. I really did.
Thank you, man.
Do,
you know, I think I sent this to my buddy that was on episode 1, and he's like, man, you need to leave the flag up there for all the veterans.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. Plus, it's one of those things, you know, it's freedom, you know.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever.
Yes. Yeah. First Amendment.
First Amendment, yeah. I knew what amendment. I just couldn't think of it
I'm here to help.
just right away.
I'm here to help.
And I can't quit admiring your shelves.
Thank you.
They look very good.
Thank you. I did those. I personally built those with my nephew during COVID.
Oh, with your nephew.
He helped.
He left that part out.
Well, I mean, it was an effort together. Like, he helped me hold the wood, and, hey, man, I need a...
Sure.
But he learned, you know.
Yeah.
I grew up doing that kind of stuff with my dad, man. Like, sometimes I'll sit back and wonder how in the world I'm able to create with my hands like that. And I don't know. I guess seeing my dad and my grandfather, like, I mean, are you handy?
I'm handy. Yeah. Very handy. Not very, not actually like a garden handy or roof handy. More like shelf building handy or changing a light fixture, you know.
But don't you think that's what we're supposed to do as men, right? Like I mean, we go looking for these women that keep themselves together, have homemaking skills. You know, it's probably a big common one in our circle. But, you know, like my wife can cook like crazy.
Yeah.
And then I make the joke all the time.
Cook.
You can cook?
Oh, yeah. I like cooking. Angie's a good cook, too. She's definitely way better with the kids than I am, but I'm a really good grandpa and a really good dad. Man, I mean, I've got so much going for me.
Yeah, but like, and what I was saying, man, I make the joke with my wife all the time that if I knew what I know now, being an adult, you know, I wouldn't have been asking girls like, what kind of music you into, what kind of movies you into. It'd be like, girl, you got some recipes? You know what I mean? Like what? That's, and I don't mean that in like some chauvinistic, like my wife cooks and that's it kind of way. It's just like
it's
you want to add value to each other's lives, and like to finish up my shelves and let you go.
Even more than that. When you're at my age, I'm 45. When you're at my age, it really does matter the taste of food. You know, you really enjoy it.
I don't want Denny's.
That's a real topic.
Yes,
to have,
sir.
You know.
Yep.
I don't know. Of course, I've been married for. It'll be this June. It'll be 20 years.
That's
Hard to
awesome.
believe. Yeah, we got grandkids. Shout out to Amelia and Camden. Yep, and of course Daniel. You know, he's going off to the Marine Corps.
That's Wiley's son, Daniel.
Yeah, it's my son. He's 18.
Who I knew
now.
when he was this tall, coming into Wiley and I used to work at Sherwin-Williams together.
Yep.
Which I don't miss. I really don't. I mean, I miss the people at that time. I don't know what it's like now. We had some cool people.
It's just like any job. You miss the people.
Yeah.
Men and women you work with. I think. I never worked in a movie theater though. Did you?
No, dude. But there was this kid that wasn't right. That that went to high school with me that did work at the movie theater. And one time I bought tickets to go see, I don't know what, but we were trying to get into like this rated R scary movie or something, but we were only like 15, 16. So we bought tickets to like, I don't know, whatever the Mrs. Doubtfire equivalent at the time was. And then we're going to sneak in that movie. And I was like one of the only nice people to this dude. Like I was always nice to him, and he was just kind of weird. Like, I don't know, man, maybe he was autistic or something, but he's standing there taking the tickets. And I'm walking up. I got my high school girlfriend with me. We walk up, and he's like, Craig, what movie are you going to see? And I tell him, and he like recognizes the situation. Like I didn't mean to tell him the truth, but I told him the truth about what movie we're going to see, and then he he busts me.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't let you do that. I can't let you do that.
That was just a regular thing.
Yeah.
You brought your food in with you.
I didn't that time, but I have. I had a buddy of mine. We used to sneak Checkers, like
Checkers.
Checkers. They have them in the hood. If you don't know Checkers,
I thought you meant
Rally's Checkers.
Well, I really did think that you meant the checkerboard. For just one.
No,
second.
that. Yeah.
Like, I mean, you just got into a movie. Just
Yeah.
watched the movie.
Some Checkers. King me, bro.
Yeah.
King me.
Yeah. Speaking
no,
of movies.
Yeah, you're a big movie fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're about to say, but you can segue into that or whatever you want.
I saw, I don't know if you saw the Netflix blockbuster thing. Have you seen that yet?
No.
It's really good.
What do you mean?
Saw it today.
Netflix blockbuster thing.
It's just essentially a documentary about Blockbuster.
Oh, is it the one that's the last
something
the
like
last
that?
single,
Yeah, the last blockbuster.
or
Yeah,
something?
it's a really cool story. It's just from the beginning to the end of Blockbuster, and technically it's not over. I mean, there's one left.
There's one left. They could come back.
One.
Count them out. Rudy.
And what's amazing to me, if for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, if you watch it, you'll learn. Of course, it's public knowledge now, but technically, you know, even though that there's just one, Blockbuster is owned by Viacom still. And it owns a lot of other things, but it owns Blockbuster. Well, every 4 years, I think it is, they have to renegotiate for their licensing. And there was a kind of not necessarily a threat, but Viacom just didn't want to support Blockbuster anymore. You know, there's only one left. There was 6 at the time when it was renegotiated, and they said probably weren't going to renew their lease or renew their licensure. So you'll see if you watch it. It's really cool, man. Because you remember how it was. I mean, Friday nights, that's what you did.
Yeah.
You went to Blockbuster.
You know, my family didn't do that.
What?
I didn't grow up going to movie places. It wasn't until I got older, like
The rental places?
Yeah. I was older when I started going. Like, I was married, out of college. We had one right beside our apartment, and we would go all the time. That was my intro. Like, I didn't do that as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
It's weird. But I know what you mean. I mean, I get it. Like, but you can't do that here. I mean, there's still some small towns that'll have, like, a movie rental place with, like, tanning beds. Like, you know? But
or a gas station. I remember there were several places in Franklin that had gas and, you know, get you a Slurpee or whatever and then rent a movie. I can't remember the name of it, but there was another place in Flat Creek, rinky-dink little place. I remember that as a kid.
Do you know
my uncle rented American Ninja?
American Ninja.
Yeah. Look it up. It's the baddest movie ever.
Who's in it?
I don't know. A couple ninjas.
Yeah.
And one of them's an American. So.
Do you remember that movie 3 Ninjas? Came out in the 90s? Yeah, I guess you would have been a teenager probably when I was watching the kid movies that I was watching. So it's probably pretty easy to not notice.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not a Goonies fan, but like that kind of stuff, I didn't.
You were not a Goonies fan?
Not really. I mean, I've seen it since, and I think it's fine. But it's also one of those deals where like, I don't really get it. You know, like I bet some people are seriously into like Gremlins, that movie, or like Back to the Future. But then there's probably people that were either too young when that was coming out, or they're a little older and they just don't care.
Have you ever thought about it this way though? Like I've thought about it this way, that there's really terrible movies, and you'll see a terrible movie from '84 or something, and you just know that there's people around the world somewhere that adores that movie, and you could, you know, and you have that conversation about how terrible this movie is, and they love it, and they can't see it that way. That's their movie. I talked to somebody the other day that swears up and down that they are a giant fan of Short Circuit Part 2. Have you seen
No,
Short
what is that?
Circuit?
Look, so we need to get this out of the way. You're the movie expert. I mean, I am here to listen. Like,
okay.
soak this up.
That's a good point.
So,
That's where that's where our conversation would go like this with music, I feel.
Yeah.
Like in the movie genre, I've got that music genre, or not genre, but music world. You're certainly an expert.
You know, I wouldn't obviously you wouldn't use those terms for yourself. But like what's the old adage that if you read 3 books about one particular topic, you're an expert? It's
Really?
something like that. I mean, think about it like this. You have people that are really really studied. You have institutions of higher learning and all these places where all this knowledge is stored, but it's in like singular people. You know what I mean? Like let's
Sure.
say biology at Vanderbilt. You know, like maybe those people in that department are some of the smartest people in biology and they're teaching other people, but they're just disseminating information. It's really stored with that person and in their writings or whatever. So you take an average person like us, if I go read 3 books by 3 different people on biology, you know, not that I'm going to understand the concepts of biology, but maybe understand biology as a, I don't know, subject. After 3 books, to the novice normal person, it makes sense to me. I don't know if that's actually true. I mean, I guess it would depend on how well you read and how well you took in the information. But if I go from knowing nothing now to reading 3 books about filmmaking, you know, to the average person, I'm going to be an expert on filmmaking.
I know what you mean.
But to your point, I don't know where my expertise is on music. Like I still am finding that. I know that when I talk to other people, the only thing in my head is figuring out what they like and figuring out how I can introduce them to things that I have spent all this time discovering. Like that really
That's
is
an
the way I
incredible
look
way
at
of putting
music.
it.
So like if I ask you what your favorite band is, what's your favorite band? I feel like I'm doing a magic trick
I
here.
have several.
Just name a band you like. Metallica. So if you liked Metallica, first band that comes into my head is there's this band in the 80s named Tank. And like, you know, and then it just goes through all that. So if I told you like my favorite movie is whatever, Friday, you know, and you're a big movie buff, then you're able to go, hey man, have you seen this other movie with Ice Cube, Mo Money or whatever that?
Gotcha.
You know, something like that. Like
Where'd Tank come from? You're saying tanked?
Tank, not
Tank.
taint. Tank.
Or tanked?
Oh, I gotta enunciate. Tank.
Okay.
Like you're driving a tank.
Right. All right.
So anyway, yeah.
Who is that?
It's a band from the 80s.
Really?
Yeah. And
Just
see, that's
they
where the
sound like
expertise
Metallica?
stops. Like I can't tell you.
Well, I mean, do they sound like Metallica?
Yeah. Like it's the same. Well, yes and no. I think it has that same kind of grit that people really like about Metallica. You know, you have your Metallica people that they do no wrong. I'm in that camp. Then you have the Metallica people that are
How is that? How do they do no wrong?
meaning like Reload, Load,
Well, I mean, yeah, but
Black Album. People hate that stuff.
of all the bands that they're novelties, but then you got Metallica that's still a big name, still selling.
Yeah, I
out
mean, I guess I
concerts,
mean it more.
if it pre-COVID, but nonetheless, I mean,
And I guess I mean it more on like a singularity. Like I think there's other bands that are better than Metallica. I like Metallica.
here's my question:
Go ahead.
how did they survive?
What?
How did they survive since the '80s and still so successful?
How?
Is it because they
They didn't
changed their
stop.
image at times? They changed the music sound.
I think it's all of that. I think it's all of that. I think Metallica was able to adapt. I think they're fans that want them to still be the pre-Black Album Metallica, which is kind of going to my earlier point that you have Metallica fans that think that everything pre-Black Album is just this golden era, and then Load, Reload, and man, what's the other one? Saint Anger. They think that one's trash. A lot of people think that one's trash. But here's the thing. This is what people don't understand. Are you going to continue to make Master of Puppets over and over and over and over?
That's a good
At
point.
that point, you know,
then
you're
yeah,
Elvis.
Yeah.
And you're making, you know, Blue Hawaii 50 times. It says Blue Kentucky and then it's Blue Ohio. I mean, when do you stop? So I think that they have survived, because they have a good fresh sound. They were pioneers in their industry, so it's in their, I shouldn't say their industry, they are, but in their vein of music. And they definitely found out how to connect with a lot of people. And I don't necessarily think that always means that bands are good, the same as movies. It's not going to matter just because something sold 10 million tickets on opening day, the movie could be absolutely trash.
Yes.
And there's bands that absolutely make me want to vomit that people love them. And if comedians too, like Jim Gaffigan. I'm not a big fan of Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
And I've been to a Jim Gaffigan concert and I've sat there and heard the jokes. And I really, it just, but anyway, going back to Metallica, I think that they were able to ride that wave, and they were able to weather that really big storm from the 90s with the whole Napster thing where it literally looks like a couple rich guys getting mad that some college kids or whatever, some teenagers are like stealing their songs. And that was a really weird time for music too, man, because it's just like everything felt about money and like, and it really is to this day about money, I think. And and that's why we love bands like Zeppelin and, Guns N' Roses and some of these older, and some of those guys got into some of the trash of the business too. But even going back farther than that, the Beatles and the Stones and Pink Floyd and like really before the business guys got there, people were doing it just because they loved it. But they were able to ride all that, man.
But then you've got classics, or you've got legendary AC/DC and.
Bro, my dad took me to see AC/DC.
Really?
So I was raised Church of Christ. And which, you don't cuss, you don't drink.
No music.
Well, when people say that, what they mean is during the worship service, there's a cappella music.
Right.
There's no pianos.
Right.
It's very
instruments.
Yeah. And so their mentality on all that, just for anybody that doesn't know, is, they came out of I always get them backwards, the Reformation movement, where they're trying to get back to the scriptures. They're pushing back away and trying to get back to what the example of the New Testament church is. And so they go through all that and say that we don't have to get into the instrumental music reason, but they have decided.
There was no mention of it.
Correct.
So why have
correct. It? Yeah. So anyway, I was raised that way, but my dad, he would take me to some concerts. And in 1997, I think it was about when I started going to see shows. And he takes me to see AC/DC on a Sunday night.
Wow.
And remember, I'm raised church. Bro, we went to church.
Were you scared?
No. I thought, no, dude, no.
I would have been terrified.
No. I loved music, bro. You don't understand. Like, I was 12, 13 years old. My dad lifted weights. And dude, we're opening up a lot of stuff here, but he was an iron worker, so he built all his own weight equipment.
Yeah.
And you look like you know your way around a weight room pretty well.
Sure.
That's why I'm bringing this up.
Mm-hmm.
But so he builds his own weight equipment like Arnold style, like when you see the old guys with the welded up stuff and the old metal plates and they're, everything's on cables. And anyway, so he has all that, but he has a stereo. And like Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall or Happiest Days, whichever part with the helicopter comes on and it's just, and dude, oh my gosh! I just remember it just blew my mind.
Well,
so I was hooked.
Here's the other part of being about being afraid. Were you terrified that God was gonna hit you? It was Sunday night.
No,
man.
so I'm sitting there, but this is the funny part about that. Sunday night,
I would have been
AC/DC,
terrified.
bro. Flames going off. He's doing the whole. Bro,
Yeah.
It was insane.
I'm sure it was.
Insane. Stiff upper lip tour, I think, is what it was. I got a stiff upper lip, bro. And he looks over at me dead in the middle of the show, and he goes, if the world comes to an end tonight, we're all going to hell, right? He said that. I tell that story all the time. I think it's hilarious.
Your dad said
he was
that?
joking.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that, But
so just another level of fear that I would have.
But man,
right there.
I do remember seeing things like Marilyn Manson, AC/DC. I remember kids that had the Alice in Chains shirts with the three-legged
dog. You
dog.
went to a Marilyn Manson concert?
No, I've never seen Marilyn Manson. No. I've seen some crazy stuff. I'm trying to think. I've seen.
The reason why I'm asking that.
Go ahead.
Is
have you seen? Marilyn
I like
Manson?
it. It's ghoulish. I like
Did
ghoulish.
you get into like Guar and that kind of stuff?
A little too much. whatever.
Dude, I
But,
knew a dude that like he like called out of work the day that singer died. Like he was so into Guar, had his
Dang.
like paint T-shirt. I don't know anything about paint T-shirts, but like evidently you go and you get paint thrown all over you or crap thrown all over you at the shows.
I don't know.
But
Their costumes are just, I don't know. It seems like the image is way bigger than the music.
you know when I
Because
was
you can watch ICP
you
or
like
listen
that?
to them. It's all right. But, I mean, it's kind of a level of ghoulishness, scary. It's supposed to be
What about
hardcore.
Kiss? Do you think it all kind of stemmed? Do you think the bands that do that now it stemmed from Kiss?
To all and everybody who's listening to this is a big Kiss fan, I just don't get it. I just don't, man.
We should stop this podcast and I should put some Kiss on. Yeah, I know what you mean though. I know I
just
do. I know
don't.
that feeling. I know that feeling.
I mean, I like it that for sure. I mean, obviously there was nobody doing that. And then you got Insane Clown Posse. They might be the only other one still today. Although argument could be made for Marilyn Manson too. I mean, he paints his face ghoulishly.
Got
every
his
time he
ribs
goes-
removed or whatever didn't really happen.
don't
Did he really?
No, he didn't do that. The thought was, or the legend was his bass player or something. It wasn't even him.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Well, that was before the
Urban
internet
legend.
too. Like people would just say it, and then there's no way to fact check it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I like ghoulish. I tried to reach out to him on Instagram. Of course, that's not going to go anywhere. But
Manson.
yeah,
Yeah, he went for that. You know, there were other people that did that sort of thing. Like you had Alice Cooper, you had Ozzy, you had Sabbath. You know,
I keep forgetting about Ozzy.
yeah, no, Ozzy, man,
Cooper, yeah, he did paint his face.
dude, Alice Cooper's
Alice Cooper
insane.
always
man.
did.
I love Alice Cooper.
His concerts are over the top, flames and that sort of thing too.
Yeah,
Didn't he do? He did monsters songs. Talked about monsters a lot too, right?
yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah. Well,
His idea was
it
to
was
be
more-
ghoulish and vampirish and all that, right?
yeah. You know, I think he had I don't know enough about Alice Cooper to get into Alice Cooper, but he had a religious upbringing too. I'm pretty sure his father was a preacher.
Something like that. We might be on to something.
Yeah,
Because, I was raised Pentecostal.
yeah. Tell me
and-
about that, man. I don't know a lot about. Did we finish before we move on? Did we finish everything we were talking about there with the ACDC?
Well, I'm sure we'll
and
come
the-
back.
Yeah,
to
we definitely want to come back to the movie. Every time I say that, like watching
And we
these
never
back, we
do.
don't come back.
That's okay.
So we'll maybe, maybe.
We're
So
just
you were
hanging out.
raised Pentecostal. This is what I want to know about at this point in this podcast. So
Okay. Well, being raised Pentecostal, which another name for it is, I just drew a blank. Pentecostal and apostolic.
apostolic.
That's another one.
Is there
So,
is there a difference? I mean, I know they're kind of the same, but like,
I couldn't tell any difference when we had visiting preachers and when we did tent revivals and that sort of thing. Lots and lots of energy in apostolic upbringing, Pentecostal upbringing.
do they tell you what that word apostolic means?
You just live the life of an apostle.
Apostolic.
Yeah, you live
Makes
your
sense.
life to be an apostle.
Okay.
Modern day apostle.
So do they believe in that they have like healing abilities
Yep.
and
Well, I mean, you're not healing them, but God is.
God is healing?
So
Like
you anoint with the oil. That's one of the things you did. You did foot washings. I don't know if you ever heard of foot washings. Foot washings.
so you guys do
actually-
foot washings?
We did, yeah. So the foot washing, actually, man, it really is, in a sense, even not religious. There's I hate to use the word rituals, but there's a lot of cultures that do that, and it's meant as a sign of humility, that you're humbling yourself to someone to do for them, and that you're being kind. It shows kindness. It shows friendship. So that's good stuff there, of course. That you'll always take care of your brother. You'll always take care of your sister. It's just, there was so much on the way you live your life that bothered me. And then I didn't notice it till I was in my
What do you mean?
teenage years.
What do you mean the way you live your life?
So, So when you outside of the church, inside the church, doesn't matter. Women have a place that they have to maintain long hair. Can't cut their hair.
Is
Can't
there
wear
like
makeup.
a line? Like what is long hair? Past the shoulders?
Never cut.
Like you can't trim your.
Don't trim. Maybe right up here, I guess. Bangs, keep it over the eyes, but the length of the hair is to never be altered.
Okay.
They can't wear pants, no shorts, certainly no bikinis, nothing like that. Just dresses, skirts. And the longer the better.
The long
there.
skirts, right?
Yep.
Like all the way down to the ankles?
Yep. Longer the better. There was a lot of, in my opinion, there just seemed to be a lot of, I don't know, restrictions on women, it seemed.
Yep.
And you're encouraged not to have a television in your house, which, at our house even today, when we will stream movies or shows, but we just don't watch TV. The TV doesn't stay on at my house.
So like when you.
So that's not a big deal. But when I was a kid, that was a big deal.
But when you were a kid, how often would you guys go to church? Like how, and the reason I ask it that way, and I guess I'm trying to relate it to my Church of Christ upbringing, but so we would go Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, like the midweek service.
Mm-hmm. That was us.
And then, any other kind of special events. Like
we had Bible studies. We had tent revivals. We had summer school or summer camp, church camp.
I mean, it all sounds pretty familiar. I mean, pretty similar.
You were always in the church, and all of your friends were the church. And you looked at your other family members who didn't believe the way you did with dismay. You were all. I remember being a kid and thinking to myself, man, they're not saved. They're not going to heaven. Oh my gosh! When I was a kid,
dude,
isn't that terrible? I think it is.
Yeah, and
not to speak out against any particular religion. Everybody's entitled to their own thing, but I'm saying relating it to me now, looking back at how much fear it created. That's why I was saying about when you go to that AC/DC concert, I would have been afraid that God was coming down.
Like these people are cannibals.
They're all
these people are going to start biting the heads off of bats.
Yeah.
My upbringing was the same. And I think a lot of these groups, a lot of denominational groups tend to have some of these same ideas, and there's some of those ideas that really do get to me and bother me. And I was raised super religious. It sounds like you were as well. And I mean, I do remember having those feelings like, man, if I listen to this music, like I'm going to go to hell.
I know.
I remember listening to Metallica, just that, and it's so abrasive and it's so just aggressive, but it felt so right to me. Like it gives me goosebumps sometimes even thinking about how much I like that.
Did you have a Walkman?
Man, I had like this little CD stereo, so my junk played like out loud.
Yeah. How's Bragging Camp?
What?
How's Bragging Camp going?
What do you mean?
Bragging Camp? You never heard that
no.
expression?
Am I bragging about having a CD player when you had a Walkman?
Here's what I had.
Mine had 6 second and a skip. How much did your junk have?
Mine was one of those. I don't know if you remember, but they were the wire. It was like an aluminum wire band with earphones on it. It didn't adjust or nothing. It just, and if they got misshapen, that was it.
Dude, you gotta remember too, man. I'm 8 years younger than you.
I know.
So
but
there's like a super
that.
ramp up.
I know,
stuff.
but we had that. I'm sure you know. If you saw what I was thinking of.
Is it a tape deck?
Yeah, a little tape deck, and it had the wire. But here's what would happen. I would routinely go to change the battery and lose that cover. So after a while, I just started putting tape on it. So it would be in my backpack. And I'd listen to music on back and forth to school. So sorry, Mom and Dad, but when I was they're out of that church now, by the way. But I'll come back to that. I had Metallica tapes, I had AC/DC tapes, and I would listen to that to and fro to school. Therefore, I'd never get caught. Nobody really, because I wouldn't listen to it at home, but had a long ride in the morning, a long ride in the afternoon. That was a good way to get started. But my mom and dad, it was after a while. We were raised in one particular church, and there was nobody that was mean, nothing like that. It's just, we just, my mom just saw the writing, and just said, this is not for us.
So how long ago was that? Was that when you were younger?
It's been a while. It's been since I was a teenager.
Yeah, and so let me go back. Let's go back to the religion thing, man, because I have a ton I could say on that.
Let's do it.
I was raised Church of Christ, and this is pretty much where my current views are. I think that I can start there because it's gonna maybe add some context to anything that I do say about Churches of Christ or anything you say about Pentecostal. Because I want to learn more about the Pentecostal stuff too, man. Because I think, you have a lot of different people reading the same book. Now, I know that there are completely different translations, and there's, Dead Sea Scrolls, and there's all this different stuff, that people manipulate the scriptures and make some versions say other things. But generally speaking, what I mean is that it says Jesus died, and these apostles, here's their name. Like, the information in there is similar. I think the Catholics have a few extra books, and of course the Mormons have their little encore and all that. But generally speaking, I think most people would agree that 1st and 2nd Timothy in Pentecostals' Bibles say generally the same thing that 1st and 2nd Timothy. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying?
I was raised on King James.
Okay. So Churches of Christ use King James too. Yeah. And the Churches of Christ don't all use King James. I mean, some would use New American Standard, some would use American Standard, New International Version, New King James. I mean, there's an NIV. There's a lot of accepted versions. But what I mean is, you have all these groups that are looking at the same book, and then have all these different views.
Yeah.
So I just got through reading this really good book on progress, and it got me thinking about some of this stuff. And I really do believe, personally, that you have a lot of religions and a lot of sects, SECTS,
right,
of religion groups that have failed to evolve with the times, and have failed to either evolve their outreach or opinion. And I don't even mean like on a doctrine type level, as in the Churches of Christ have their list of, you must do these things in this order, and then you're saved. And I'm not making any decisions on whether that's right or wrong.
Sure.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
I get you.
What I'm saying is that you have these groups that have their pieces in place, that they agree, these are the cornerstones, these are the things that make us different than this group. And then you have Pentecostals who were being like apostles. We do foot washings. Church of Christ doesn't do foot washings. This is what we have decided. These are our pillars. These are our cornerstones of our little group. And you get all these people comfortable with these different groups. But my point is that all of that is coming from the same
Isn't that crazy?
book.
Yeah.
So my point with all of this is, I think when I say keep up with the times, I mean, there's only two realities here, right? Like, either the Bible is true or it's not true.
Right.
There's not really, and I don't think there's many groups that would say that the Bible's not true, but we keep doing these foot washings and all this stuff. So what I mean is, you have two groups of thinking. You have the people that think the Bible is not true, so I'm not going to that's stupid. That's for the snake handlers and the hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the people that raised us the way we're talking, which is, those people are not it's a very us and them thing. Those people are not saved. We're saved. Here's our little core group of beliefs. It's all or nothing. And that's the part that I have a problem with, is the all or nothing piece, because as a rational, educated human being, like, not having any doubt, like I can divide the two in my head pretty evenly. I can say, God doesn't exist, or God does exist. It's really only those two ways, and I can accept them both at the same time.
Right.
I don't think that means that I don't believe in God. It means that I think that those are the two realities. Either there is or there isn't. But what I would say is, why do we not look at these groups and figure out what it is that raises two men to where they could literally sit and have a discussion, and we're not sitting here talking about going and killing our neighbors and how much stuff can they take. Like there has to be some good in there. I mean, think about the society, like you know where we live, in the area here, like, you know, we're around Nashville, we'll say. And I mean, I know a lot of great people that have a lot of the same stories that me and you are having. Like, hey man, I was raised this way, this all or nothing group. And I'm a good person, and I know this is a really good way of life. I know it is, like, right or wrong. And that's kind of where I'm at, is like, okay, there's things that I can prove and there's things I can't prove. I'm an educated person. I can rationally think through this. But, you know, some of this stuff to me doesn't matter, and it's overshadowing the good, which is loving your neighbor, having grace on your neighbor, like the things that have progressed our society. Like, you know, they say capitalism doesn't work that well in other non-Christian societies. Well, some people would say, well, that's because you don't have God in the society. Is it? Or is it because the values that are taught within Christianity, those values are absolutely important? I wouldn't deny that at all. The part where you're literally teaching school children that if they listen to AC/DC, they're going to hell, or if they wear an Alice in Chains shirt, that they're somehow this outcast, or they're not, like, good enough. The part that bothers me about that as a grown human being is, me and you know that all people are in the closet on all kinds of stuff. It could be porn addiction. It could be homosexuality. Yeah. It could be lying. It could be stealing. You know, they could be cheating on their spouse. They could be abusing their kids. I mean, dude, when I was in college, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this because it blows my mind. When I was in college, there was a preacher's wife. Do you remember the Mary Winkler thing where she shot and killed her preacher husband?
That's in Tennessee, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's, you know, I've heard all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was in Selmer, Tennessee. Yeah. And I was in college at Freed-Hardeman University, which is like I went to a Super Church of Christ college as well. And I got a funny story about that too. The first day I went to Freed-Hardeman, I put my stuff in, blah, 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 left, drove all the way to Knoxville to see Tool. They had pentagrams. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But so get on the Church of Christ piece, is, you know, where I'm at is looking at the actual values, you know, coming from a father perspective. I want to take the values that are in the stories, regardless of whether they're true or not. I think if people want to argue about Jonah and the whale and the walls of Jericho and, you know, the chariot ascending into heaven, and if people want to talk about whether that really happened or not, I think those debates are valid. But I think in a world where two men with different opinions can't sit down, or women, it doesn't matter, Asian too, we love Asian people too. They're beating them up in San Francisco. I feel like I need to. That's crazy.
I have no idea.
Stupid people, man. It's retarded. You can't say retarded. I'm sorry for saying that. Let me just take that back right now. You can't say San Francisco and then say what I said and it be okay, can you?
Especially San Francisco. It seems like they get upset about a lot of things.
Yeah. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, you know, and I don't want it to sound like and I'll make one more thought in this, because I had this discussion with my wife. I said, you know, the more I really think about it, let's say all of a sudden I take myself out of the Churches of Christ. Like, I just don't go anymore. I'm raised Church of Christ. My grandparents are Church of Christ. My parents are Church of Christ. All my friends are church. The people I went to college with are Church of Christ. Can I really remove myself from the Churches of Christ and not have some sort of level of guilt? Is it possible? Or, rhetorical question, would it just be easier for me to go, okay, this is a really good way of life. These are really, really good people. I really do enjoy these people. I don't necessarily disagree. I just don't know. I can't prove it. They can't prove it. I know some really smart people, And a lot of those smart people are in a different little sect of what we're talking about. You're a smart guy. You came from Pentecostal. I got another really smart friend. He was Baptist. So I started thinking about this idea. Like, we're in these groups that, among other things, we want to go out and get other people to come to our group. You know, did you grow up with that mentality as well?
Yeah, but it's really, really hard to do when you absolutely change the life of the person that you're trying to get into your church. They've never been to church before. You need members. You talk to people about, hey, you should come to our church. And then when they do, they get looked at for wearing mascara or pants, So,
and
or
that's the stuff.
Or the guy having a beard. That was another one. It's weird, but
I'm still waiting on the verses from the church groups of the 60s that were anti interracial marriages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's the church has churches. When I say the church, I mean churches in general, because I do have to be careful, because the churches of Christ don't believe that they're a division of all these other denominations. They are separate and apart.
And all they all do, really.
Do Pentecostals, do they have similar language in that
it's
type?
not. I forget exactly what one of the common phrases. It wasn't scripture, but it was. You just don't. You're not hanging out with people. You're just not. You're around the people that are at the church, and that's it. I mean, and there's some really good people. They're really good people.
Oh, insane. Insane. The
help
church
you
we
with
go
anything.
to, man.
They're the best
oh my goodness.
people ever. But man, judgmental. I mean, and it's a call to duty. That you're supposed to keep that person from going to hell. But it's
and see, I think that's
rooted.
that's the miss where people misunderstand the judgmental piece, because I have seen Christian people be insanely judgmental. I really have seen that. But I have also seen people come across as judgmental that were really just, honestly, like you're saying, they think you're going to hell.
Right.
And the way we were raised is, if you weren't a Christian, then that means you're out smoking crack and looking at porno magazines and drinking beer and getting busted for DUIs.
Yeah.
And beating on your wife.
Yeah.
Or you're a Christian. I mean, that's the way I thought about it as a kid. Now maybe my kids think about it the same way too, that they're in this loving, warm house that we're trying to keep, here for them. And maybe they think everybody that's out there, because, you warn your kids. You're like, hey, man, people steal kids. Like, I taught my kids that earlier. I'm like, hey, people steal kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just telling you. And maybe but
yeah.
They got to know. But maybe they think that
the
everybody
realities.
outside of here is stealing kids.
Yeah. Well, and it's some of the realities, and that's another thing. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. It's, I wouldn't say that you're cut off from the rest of the world, but you're certainly not keeping up with what's going on out there. Progressiveness, societal progression, just people's dealings. I don't know how else to say that. For instance, you fall in love with someone, you date them for a long time, whatever, and you make the decision to move in together.
Nope.
No way. Not before marriage.
We need like little squares above our heads, and you just name off a topic, and then are Church of Christ cool with that?
Yeah.
Hey, you do know, I want to get this joke in here though. I don't know who wrote this joke, but do you know why members of the Church of Christ don't have sex standing up?
I don't know.
Somebody might think they're dancing. I used to tell my wife's grandfather that joke. He loved that joke.
Yeah, and obviously I have a love for the same people. See them all the time. We all generally kind of live all in the same area, but especially over by where my parents live. But that's why we got out, was my mom. I mean,
so what was do you remember what
harassed.
the straw was that made her go, I just don't want to do this anymore?
It's just for her the restrictions were a little.
So
too much.
did she grow up with any religious upbringing at all, or was
None.
she like a first? So she was a first generation. You know, that's interesting too, man, because I've had this discussion with my wife. Her mom and dad were first generation members of the Church of Christ, and then my grandparents on my dad's side were first generation Church of Christ members. And I don't know. And then my mom was her family was Baptist.
So interesting story.
I just thought that was interesting.
So my mom has a story of she was trying to decide. I forget exactly what it was that the motivation was about giving her life to God, but she asked for a sign. And I would imagine that that's what somebody that's not raised in church and they're torn. You know, that's one of the things that they want to know, a sign or give me something. And so she prayed for a sign, and she says that, and Mom, I'm sorry if I butcher this, but she said that she was praying one night, and my dad was working nights, so it was just me and my two brothers. We're in the house asleep, and somebody started knocking at the door, at the front door. So she gets up, she goes to the door, and we got a window right there, you know, and she had to look around, and somebody was knocking still. And she couldn't quite see, so she kept hollering, "Who is it? Who is it?" And then she cracked the door while there was a knocking sound, and there was nobody there. So she took that as being open a door, open your heart, that kind of thing. So my dad, he listened to her. She was the one that picked that church. She was the one that, and not that particular church. I'm talking about that denomination. Because we did go to a couple different places, and there was, like I said, there was nothing, no harassment or any of that. It was just so many restrictions. It was just, I don't know.
So if your mom wasn't Pentecostal before, that means she had been cutting her hair.
Oh yeah,
wearing
that
her
was
clothes
a
and all
huge
that.
life change.
So all of a sudden, you know, I had this discussion.
My dad was a smoker.
So did he have to quit?
So he had to quit right away, and I can't remember if he quit just before or not, but I know that's a big no. Like I said, you can't wear pants. You know, women can't wear pants, and you know,
what's the mentality on the pants? Do you know?
I don't know. I really don't know. I need to look into it a little more. Maybe that's terrible of me to even say.
No.
Everybody is entitled. I want to make that clear too. Is that I'm not bashing it. There was nothing horrible about it. It was just such a restrictive lifestyle, and maybe that was it. Maybe she just got a little older and said, I'm going to enjoy some things and not have to worry that I'm going to hell all the time. And she kind of came to, my dad kind of woke up to the idea that there's probably not going to be a mean God like that for an article of clothing that you wear that you'll send you to hell for that. I don't know. I couldn't imagine, but that was kind of the idea. It's just too many restrictions, time to go. But that was why I think that I enjoy Halloween so much, and Alice Cooper and Marilyn Manson. I can see anybody that looks at it from a religious perspective of those things that I just mentioned can look at them as evil. And what I see is a complete just fun. You know, not to get into whether or not any of it's real and demonic and all that sort of thing. It's not. And just like Marilyn Manson, I think, and if we ever had a discussion, I would, that'd be one of the things that I would ask him is that, you know, personally, is it fun to be a shock jock? You know, and I guess that's the shock rock, right? Is that what it's called?
You know what
it's one of the terms that it may just be. I mean, that's what worked for Kiss, I think, was that image. It looked evil. It looked scary. Gene Simmons with the blood and the long tongue, you know. It's meant to be demonic. All of a sudden, Kiss, what was it? Kids in Satan's Service?
Knights in Satan's Service.
Yeah.
That's not what their name was. That's
right.
what people said.
And I heard that growing up. AC/DC was all children.
Antichrist, devil children.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's not really what their name stands
No,
for,
no.
by the way.
But
it's a manifestation of the parents' fears, man. Like
yeah,
Marilyn Manson
for
is
sure.
the dude you don't want to date your daughter.
Right.
You know, like I'm listening to this book, Hate Inc., and it's talking about how like Dan Rather and these other news guys, they were like the safe date. You know, they're this guy that looks like they'd come date your daughter, and I'm Dan Rather, you know, and they're safe. But then you got a guy with 2 different color eyes and rumors about him removing his ribs so he can do
Right.
unspoken things.
Right.
You know what I
That's-
mean? What?
yeah.
What? And
Well-
then that song. I will say this, man. I'm not
Beautiful
into
People?
freaky movies.
Oh.
That don 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 don. Sweet Dreams, dude.
Sweet Dreams,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
That's a
song's
remake,
good.
though.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a killer
Yeah,
remake.
it's good. Yeah.
That was on that. I think it was on that movie House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, probably.
But I think that's that's. I want to ask you because I know you're into horror movies.
Oh yeah,
Bro, I'm like freaked out of
Really?
horror movies.
dude.
Like I just choose not to, but I understand that like it's this view into our deepest fears. It's they didn't used to have all this movie magic that we have now. So now we can imagine some guy with his face totally unzipped with
Yeah.
huge teeth and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, in my opinion, and I think that we've seen this over the years, and I didn't read this somewhere. I promise you, it's completely on me. You see an evolution in movies based on what society needs and what feeding society, right? I think that there's a big old drive for all kinds of entertainment progression, but one of them that's going on now is just spooky. Okay, I can see it, and if you watch like The Dark Knight, okay, you've seen the progression of Batman.
Yeah.
He's become this, this super built, strong guy. He started out with Adam. I just drew a blank. What's the first one?
Adam West.
Adam West. Rest in peace.
And he's
he
wearing
had
little.
he had a dad bod.
We need to go find the weights, Robin.
and then you look at those dudes today. They probably never suspected they would ever evolve into something like that. I wouldn't imagine. But on the flip side, you can look at the progression of like Joker as well. Joker was a Joker. He had kind of a spooky look to him. He was meant to be menacing, have a menacing look. But you look at him today, dude, he's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So it works, especially in
Well, I've heard that
Marvel
tied to
movies
terrorism too.
do you
That
mean?
like all of a sudden, like the Batman Begins movies and all those have like the whole terror twist. Like for the last 19, 20 years, we've been scared that somebody's going to fly a plane into a building
Sure.
again,
Yeah.
and just this scary unknown guy in regular plain clothes. Like it's kind of some hard, dark times. So I agree with what you're saying. I do.
Yeah, and now we're back to wearing masks, man.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing. I would imagine if I worked in a place where I'm dealing with customers, let's say, all day long, that would freak me out. All of a
Yeah.
sudden overnight, now you got this person that can't be identified on film.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've thought about it from 2 different perspectives. That one, and even at gun stores, if you go in a gun store, you have to take your mask down and then put it back up because they have
okay,
cameras,
yeah.
face identification. So I don't know, but I was going to the dentist a couple weeks back, and I'm walking in, and I just personally don't like being told what to do.
Sure.
I'm just gonna be honest. Like I don't care. When somebody says, "Hey, you have to do this," in that kind of manner, I don't mean like an assignment or my wife asked me to do something like that. I don't mean like that. I just mean when it's like a demand to like, you must come pay your $115 tax or whatever, like that type stuff. I can't stand
Taxes.
that. Governmental. Like I'm a very autonomous citizen, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like I just want to do my thing, and I don't want my neighbors involved with what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want people picking at me.
Can I tell you my perspective?
I need to make sure that I cleared that up, because I literally just said I don't like people telling me what to do, but obviously there's people that watch this that may even tell me what to do. I don't mean it from that perspective. I just mean if
I know
like
what you
it
mean.
going back to the church piece.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden they tell me, like a church type thing, like an authority tells me, hey man, you can't wear shorts on Sunday night. Well, that automatically makes me want to wear shorts on Sunday. Like, I'm that guy.
Well, it appears to be winding down anyway.
What? The shorts?
The shorts. the mask,
hey man, we're not in shorts.
The mask wearing thing.
Yeah.
At least in Tennessee.
Well, I think there's two things going on, man, and this is all I'm going to say about this junk, because people get touchy about it. But I think there's people that are still trying to stay extremely consistent with what they were doing and saying during all of that, whether that's wearing masks or not wearing masks. I think that's just the nature of men. Man, not men. I got to make sure that's clear, man. I don't want any women going, he's just talking about men.
Right.
But in general, like in people, I think we tend to stay consistent with what we've done. So if you're a triple double mask wearer, you know, you're still going to be posting on Instagram with your double triple mask, because you're expressing how this is my stance.
Yeah.
Here's my stance. I don't care one way or the other. I just want to go with the science and what makes sense.
Right.
And let's just do that. Like, let's make this better, because everybody thinks it sucks no matter which side you're on. So like, hey man, like, ease up and let's fix this. Like, that's all. Yeah. That's my perspective.
And everybody, there's a lot of people that would watch this and have a disagreement either way with what I'm about to say as well. And I'm sure that they're doing that with yours right now. Okay.
Fine by me.
Fine by you. All right. But the way I look at it is, I'm not doing it because of a government mandate, or so to speak. It's about that poor lady that works behind the counter that sees 48 people in an hour. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's what I was trying to say with the dentist thing when I said I was going to the dentist a couple weeks back. I didn't really want to wear a mask. I didn't have one. Like, you know how it is when you have kids, man. You're like barely making it there. I'd gotten off work, and we're trying to go. You know, it's like late in the day, and you get there, and it's like, dude, I don't have a friggin' mask, man. Like, I just don't have one. I'm like, man, whatever. And as I'm going up the elevator, I've literally gone to the same dentist my whole life, just about. And I'm like, man, I know these women in here, man, and like, they have no control over who's coming in the door. They have no control over whether that person is like this, you know, this person that doesn't care that they're sick. They just want to get their teeth cleaned for some vain reason because they have their family coming in from out of town. They don't know. And then I go, you know, man, out of respect for them, I probably should wear the mask, even though I don't want to. And it's not because somebody's telling me to. It's literally just because I'm respecting another human being. I don't think people have that mentality that often either, man. You either hate the mask, or you think everybody should wear them, and everybody that doesn't wear a mask, you're just no. And both of those people, what in my opinion, you want to know my opinion? Both of those people are from the same type fundamentalism background that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I said this on my last podcast with my buddy Matt. I said, you have people on both sides that literally have the same behavior. You have these people saying that this is the one way to live.
They blame the other side for that behavior while they're doing it.
Like, these people are absence of God. These people have God. Both tell you words that you can't say. Both tell you things that you can't do, places you can't go, what you can and can't wear. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove it. I mean, somebody tell me I'm wrong.
It's in politics. It's all of that's everywhere.
You know, there's a study,
so unfair,
and I don't remember which book it was because I'm between two. Mm-hmm. There was a study that took Democrats and Republicans, and we got to get out of this quick. But Democrats and Republicans, and they asked them both basically the same questions, and they got their responses. And then they asked more questions, but tinged it towards their beliefs. So like, you know, if you were an anti-masker, the question might be, you know, kind of aimed in that direction. And so they would answer along their party lines. But then they tinged them the other way, and no matter, even if it was something they were trying to figure out, like gun control, if they tinted the question in a liberal way, the conservative person would always just elicit a response that was along their line.
Right.
And that's the problem that I have with any of this stuff that we're talking about, with
Me
Pentecostals,
too.
with Church of Christ, with Democrats, with Republicans, is you can't just follow something blindly without knowing what you're following, why, what makes sense, what the data says, what, you know, and to tie this up before I completely sound like I'm absolutely anti Church of Christ or religion or any of that.
I know. I'm saying the same thing.
I think
I'm
there's
not
so
against
much
any of
good.
that.
I think there's so much good in all of it.
we just realized what was best for us. It's
Yeah.
not a knock on any of that. It's
But to clean up the masking and all that, man, I just think that it really is true, man. You just have to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes.
yeah.
And when you're not, forget these huge groups of these just, quote, Republicans, quote, Democrat. Like, who is that? Who even introduces themselves like that? We don't know people like that, man. We know people as individuals. Hey, what's up, Wylie? Hey, man, you're really big, bro. Like, your back is huge. Let's talk. Nobody goes, hey, man, are you a Democrat? Because if you're not, I don't want to talk to you. Like, no, who does? And so it's so weird, man.
But we both know people that you can have that conversation. Nice to meet you, Craig. Nice to meet you, Wylie. So what do you do? This
And then
that.
just this.
And then
Nothing.
there's something that's said that gives a little bit of an indicator of the way they lean politically, and then they could say,
and it's over.
all right, see ya. And
Yeah,
it's
I don't
true.
care I don't care about that stuff, man. I really don't.
Well, and then you've got, I don't care either. I'm exhausted with it, to tell you
Same.
the truth.
Same.
It's so exhausting.
Same.
And if anybody believes, God, here we go. If anybody believes that either side is their savior, they're completely mistaken.
Yeah, and that's the
It's
point
a
of that
business,
study.
man.
That
It's
study
a
that I was.
business.
Yep.
It is. And these outlets that people
Hate
listen
Inc.
to.
Read Hate Inc.
Yeah.
Matt Taibbi. I think that's how you
I've
pronounce his
heard of
last
that.
name.
Yeah.
He's a liberal leaning guy, like
Yeah.
he is, and it's a little anti-Trump at first, and he'll say the stuff that he doesn't like about Trump, which, anybody that is a Trump fan, when people knock Trump, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like you're saying, is he really your savior? Is that your savior?
Exactly.
Like
I can tell
any
you right
of it
now,
is
I would
ridiculous.
imagine that I'm a conservative leaning person, but without a doubt, I would love to sit down and have a beer with Obama.
Everybody says that.
He's
He talks
a
about
really-
that in the book. He says that all of a sudden we have this, and I'm not
he's
knocking
a cool
your idea,
guy, man. I would imagine,
but that's
that
on
him-
purpose. They want you to think that.
Well,
It's a
I would
sales tactic.
imagine on a personal level. That's what I mean. Forget politics. I bet he's a cool person to hang out with. I bet he's got a lot of interesting things to talk about.
And I don't disagree with that.
I mean,
but
like,
does to do things like that make people great leaders?
it should. That's the thing. We had a president that was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk.
They
Do you
kept that
think
hid,
that that's
didn't they?
ever going to happen again? Probably not. So unfortunately, if you knew him as a person, forget his limitations, forget his handicap, or even injuries. Like if they were blind, if there was anything, it probably wouldn't be electable. It's terrible. But on a personal level, probably incredibly intelligent, probably a great conversationalist, probably could figure out the economic woes that we have in about 2 seconds. But is he electable? He or she, are they electable? And then that's where you get in the weeds of the business of being a Democrat or Republican. It just drives me crazy.
So in the first chapter of this Hate Inc. book, it's funny you're bringing all this up because he literally talks about the show.
I consulted
It's a
with him.
beauty pageant. He goes, Matt, where's his money? So he talks about the beauty pageant of it, and he said we started coming up with these ambiguous terms like, not presidential, and we came up with these ways to discount people. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders, dude. Like, I mean, he's not exactly the most presidential looking guy. I mean, most of our presidents in history have been like these chiseled looking guys and
Sure.
ex-military guys or your Truman looking guys. But I mean, he looks like some wild, like dean of students or something. Like I'm not knocking him. Like, I mean, maybe he's cool too. I don't know, but it's like they start coming up with these ways to go, nah, you don't really. They being the media have come up with well, he's not really, we don't really like him. That's too left leaning. That's too whatever. Like, I don't know that we really realize how much influence those companies have on the people that are actually presented to us, because before we're all paying attention, they're running these stories and discounting all these people before we ever even get to the primaries, before we ever even get to these places. So that was kind of his point. I don't want to stay on that too long, but his point is that it is all a show. They are trying to sell you.
Yeah.
The Democrats are trying to sell you on their ideas. The Republicans are trying to sell you on their ideas. Fox News wants you to watch their station. They make money. And we also watch, man, I don't know if you've seen The Social Dilemma. And
I've seen about half of it, and I got too scared. I turned it off.
It scared you?
It scares
and
me.
You watch people get murdered
Yeah.
on movies,
Yeah.
not like in real life. But, yeah, so he says, and I'll shut my mouth after I say this.
No, dude.
He said how long, and I'm not an anti-capitalist either. Before I say this, hear me out, because I am a capitalist. I like money. I like selling things, making money. I like giving my time for X amount of money and always receiving that money and people not ripping me off. Like, I'm cool with all that. But he made the statement, how long are we going to continue to act like all these corporations going off in their own direction for what they think is best? How long are we going to keep acting like that's what's best for the people that drive all this and have to live here? And I'm more of the mind of, I don't know if you're familiar with John Mackey, but John Mackey is the guy who started Whole Foods. And he wrote a book called Conscious Capitalism, which I absolutely love. And what he says, and of course, me and you, we worked for a big Fortune 500 company, Sherwin-Williams, together. And so we can relate some of this to that because we know the same stuff. But what he says is, if you're Sherwin-Williams and you operate in this area, like they're really big in Atlanta, whatever, what are you doing to make sure that Atlanta is taken care of? Like, you're dependent upon Atlanta for your manufacturing, for whatever else.
Big slice of the market.
Like, what are you doing to make sure that Atlanta is whole? And I think you get some of that stuff coming from the woke movement, where companies feel like they have to do stuff. But Sherwin-Williams is, not a lot of people know this because they don't publicize it, but like during Hurricane Katrina, they sent trailers full of bottles of water. Like, they do things, and I know other companies do as well.
Yeah.
But he's saying that there has to be a morality, there has to be a conscience to these businesses, to where we're not just still in this mode of whacking down trees and just whatever, we're making toothpicks.
Yeah.
Like the old Looney Tunes cartoons you see.
Yeah.
So I'm more there. But what you got?
But no, it's very much so. I think just over time, it's always a challenge to have freedom for all, and it not have its challenges. I think just overall. And just growing as a nation, we're never going to stop growing as a nation. I mean, technology advancement, there's all different types of thought. We're going to Mars, man.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of advancements that we're doing, and we're not always the leader in everything all the time anymore. Everybody's kind of, I don't know. I haven't really thought much about that.
You know why I think we're not the leader in a lot of this stuff anymore? This is my personal opinion. Is some of this fundamentalism stuff we're talking about, like fundamentalist woke,
probably,
and fundamentalist. It stops us. Stem cell research is one.
It's so unfortunate, man, because I have Democrat friends who don't like and wouldn't spend much time at all with conservative friends of mine, and I've got a couple of socialist friends, and. Screw politics, man. I want to know you on a personal level. We can be dear friends forever, and I really do mean that. I can't watch the news anymore. I used to kind of do that. I would watch the news. I pay attention to the news, and I read a lot. So instead of getting my information from whatever news cycle is happening right now, whatever's hot, it's all they talk about. They have an agenda. It's a business as well.
Of course.
I don't know that it ever hasn't been, but but all sides, it's a business.
Well,
and they're
that's
all
why I
trying
want to do this.
get,
Like that's where this comes from.
absolutely.
I think
That's
people
why
just need to
this
sit down and
works.
talk.
That's why this works. We can see it on the personal side or you can start seeing someone on the personal side, and to plug Joe Rogan, that's some of the things that he talks about all the time. It's just be kind to people and get to know them. That's the only way something like that's going to change. But I'm afraid that the engines they're just too big, and it's a constant information overload to make you think a certain way, especially with cancel culture.
Well, the making you think a certain way, according to your social dilemma, what's his name, Tristan, I forget his last name.
Yeah.
But it's to sell.
And anybody that's not aware of these things can look at me or look at us and say that we're conspiracy theorists, or these guys are afraid of. There's nothing like that going on, but it is. I mean, it's not even, and that's. I hate to say it, but it's one of the problems now that we're facing, especially in the world of advanced technology that we have in communications. That the world has gotten a lot smaller, but it's true that capitalism is causing. It really is causing part of the information overload. You think about it. Why is the jungle so dangerous? Why is the jungle so dangerous? Right?
Do we know that it is dangerous?
It's so dangerous. Let's go out here in the Tennessee woods versus.
I get what you mean.
Right, like in Cambodia somewhere. There's a lot of poisonous things. There's a lot of sharp things. There's a lot of biting things, stinging everywhere. There's a bunch of it. And why is that? Because there's so much life there. There's so many things competing for the same resources. They're always competing. So what you have now is that, and this is my opinion, this is nothing I've read, it's something that I've really paid attention to, and this is my thought, is there's not that many. There used to be a lot of information outlets and news outlets, back when we were kids, and it's gotten smaller and smaller. These bigger companies are gobbling them up, and they're telling them what to say all the time. And I don't know.
To add on to what you're saying, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
And that's why
person,
this works.
Except when I am a conspiracy theorist person.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the capitalism piece, I do think that Christian values and capitalism and what America did, all of it, is what drove us to where we are now. But that doesn't mean that all of those things, and I'm going to take capitalism out of that, because I believe capitalism has enough redeemable about it still. Mm. Like if you just take out crony capitalism, which are basically like, your Wall Street guys that everybody gets mad at. Anybody that you think is like tricking somebody or just hiring their family members or like buddying up and just making deals with certain people and screwing people over and all that, like that crony type capitalism is really what gives good capitalism a bad name.
Sure.
And, like there's hospital companies that will make an advancement or figure something out that they could hold on to for their own personal gain, and they would be the only people with that technology. And I know this for a fact. This really happened with a hospital company in Nashville, and they ended up giving the technology to other hospitals, and because they knew it would save other people. So I think there are, and then think about everything that capitalism and this idea. And so capitalism at its core, what I believe capitalism is you have an idea, and then because you had that idea, you have the right to monetize the idea. I don't think you have the right to ruin our community or our neighborhoods.
Right.
Or, like I think you get into gray areas with like Walmart not paying their employees enough, but they employ a lot of people. That's a complex problem. Like, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, but it looks bad.
Yeah.
It looks bad that you pay people $8 an hour or whatever whatever they can pay people now, and you employ half the country, and you're adding to the welfare state of America. Like, that is a problem. Is it right? I don't know. They're getting away with it legally, obviously, but is it morally right? I mean, that's where you get into then people like to just go, oh, well, it's just bad. Let's throw the whole thing out. Well, I'm saying the same thing about capitalism that I'm saying about religion. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's just get rid of the stuff that's intrusive on people's lives. Let's get rid of the stuff that really, even in your words, according to the text that you're reading, the Bible, whatever, like even things that have no foundation in that whatsoever, that we do, but they don't have a foundation here. Or maybe there's things here that do have a foundation that we don't do, but we call it cultural. Like all that, whatever that is, where you have all these different groups, going back to what I said originally, that are just doing all these different things, whatever that is has to stop because it's just tribal mentality. It's the same thing as the Democrat-Republican thing that we're talking about. Like, even in the New Testament, it doesn't talk about multiple churches. It talks about one church. We're the ones that did all this multiple churches. So I don't see that stuff being undone anytime soon. But what I am saying is, like, all of that, it's very easy to just look at where you are on something and go, this is probably the right way. I'm just going to, and when you're born, you only know the facts that you're born into. And so you keep doing it the same way. So what I'm saying is, when you step back from all of that, when you step back from capitalism, when you step back from Pentecostal, when you step back from Church of Christ and you just look at it, you can see what brought you to your point in your life and what makes your life better or good. That might be a job. It might be the military, which we haven't even touched on with you while I was in the military. Like whatever it was that got you to the point where you're not killing people, you're not taking other people's stuff, you're not like whatever has gotten humanity to that point. Let's just agree on all that real quick and keep people from killing everybody, because we are doing it. You drive all over Nashville, the different areas, and it's not hard to figure out the ones that you can walk down the street and you don't have to worry about getting killed, and the ones that are. And it's a poor thing. It's an ignorance thing. Yeah. It's opportunities.
And it's a lot of places in America like that still.
Yeah.
And then,
but we have the answers, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We know that if you have a good job and you make over X amount of money, and all these different things, and you don't steal and you don't do all these other things, you will have a better life. And anybody that's like less than 15 or whatever, like a teenager now, it really is easy. It's not as hard as you think it is. Like, you don't see a clear path, but if you basically don't ruin your life, keep trying hard, figure out what you want to do and go after it.
It's a big one, man. That's some big ones. I mean, there's some fundamentals in life.
That
I think that if everybody, honestly, followed some fundamentals of life, not according to Wylie, but some true proven fundamentals about, working, saving, maintaining a relationship with your children's parent, either side. There's some fundamentals like that just, we could have transformation, a societal whistle blown, and everybody put their fist down if we have some of those fundamentals. I think we're going to go a lot of places and being more kind to one another when we start straightening up things in our own life. And you made mention about areas being poor. Truly, that's a big part of it, for sure. And I've been to some places in the world where, man, if people haven't, and they need to be outside the country, they need to go visit some places too that, are not capitalism friendly or freedom friendly, freedom of speech and all that, in places where it doesn't exist. And it's a different world, man, and it's real. And you talk about some real poverty. But then you got places in America, like in the Appalachia, that, gosh, dude, there's plenty of information and videos out there for people to watch, and it's hard to believe that some people can live like that, just that amount of poverty. And, but then again, it used to be that a factory closed, right? And then people went to where the work was. It's in Iowa, let's say. So you got your stuff together and you moved to Iowa. You didn't just stay where there was no employment. That town was done. That's, it used to be like that, like the New Deal, right? They're building a giant dam. So we went where the work was. There was no work.
Yeah.
So everybody loaded up and they went out there. Oak Ridge, you know, there was no work in certain areas and people moved out there just to have a job and it paid well. But it seems to be that.
Well, the construction world's still a lot like that.
Well, it is. And it moves around. It's in different places. But the problem is a lot of people just stay where the town is dead. And then
my wife's from a town like that.
Yeah. And then you're going to need subsistence. You know, you're going to need government help, and that just creates just a stagnant, just a poverty-stricken area. It's just, I don't know.
Well, see, here's the
Seems
deal,
like
man.
there's a lot of things.
You know, we're already one of the most, whether people want to admit this or not, go do your research. This is what I'm about to say is true. We're one of the most socialistic societies already.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, we used to, you would lose your job, and then you're just flat. But now we have unemployment insurance. That's
Right.
a socialistic type idea. We've got this safety net in place that mean you lose your job, we're not just going to starve to death overnight.
Right.
We have a little bit of assurance. And so you don't ever hear during any of the political cycles anybody trying to do away with that. Any of your super capitalistic conservatives are never screaming about doing away with, you know, and then Social Security, if you touch the idea of Social Security,
Yeah.
either side, that is a death sentence. Do the math, do the homework. I mean, so we already accept some of these items, and you hear other things that are coming up, like, you know, universal income, where basically my understanding is we actually already do something similar to this. It's the earned income child tax credit. Like, there's already a little bit of redistribution of wealth going on, and I say a little bit. It's enough. I mean, it's good. I mean, I get it because I have kids. I mean, you know, I'm not complaining. So there's things that we get that people don't complain about. But then people have to understand, too, that there's no such thing as free money. There's really is no such thing as a free lunch.
It's hard to.
It's coming from somewhere.
It's hard to sell that to people, though, isn't it, in America? Because everywhere you look, there's free this and that.
Yeah, I
There's a
guess
lot of
my
places
point
in
with
the
saying
world
that
that
is,
doesn't
though,
have
is that there are good ideas in a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe having that social safety net of, hey, if I lose my job, I'm good. Or, you know, like me and my wife talked through the whole idea of, like, what do you think about, like, if everybody just across the board received $20,000? You know, and then you go, well, where's it going to come from? Whatever. Obviously, the taxes have to come in. It's a redistribution of wealth. But, like, let's say they did that. You know, is that good? Is that bad? Well, the first thing you would think is, like, okay, well, some people would just not work and they'd sit at home and eat Doritos and play Call of Duty all day. And some people would do that. But don't you think those people are already doing that? Like, I don't know.
It's true.
But do you think it would cause, I guess the question I want to ask is, do you think it would cause people to chase their dreams more? Where you're not having, you know, like our grandparents and going forward, you'd get a job. I mean, you don't want to lose that job. But, like, if they had the opportunity to be able to pursue something else, could they have gone farther? Could we prosper more? Could we have more progress? I think the answer is yes. I think we already see all that stuff going on now.
But, dude, I mean, a universal income.
I'm not saying I'm a proponent. I'm just bringing the idea.
Yeah, I know. And that's all I'm doing, too. I'm not.
Mental gymnastics.
It could easily be seen as if everybody had 20,000, but some people have 100, some people have 1,000,000, some people, you know, but 20,000 is the bottom that you can go in America, then it would just be the new poverty. It would be the new poverty level. It would be, you're back at zero. Because there is no, that's not.
So
any
what's not
advancement.
poverty? Like, let's just go there for a minute. Like, let's just say money were no object. If every family household had $30,000 that they knew they were going to get every year, no more food stamps.
Then 30,000 wouldn't buy anything, I would think.
You think it would cause hyperinflation is what you're saying.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
See, everybody says that, man, and I don't know that the data backs that up. I don't have my computer to look it up.
They have 30,000. Why not jack a price
because, well, I mean, I just think Walmart would sell out of TVs. That's a joke.
Yeah.
You know, that is really what's happening.
I need a TV.
I have a buddy of mine who has a family member that works at Walmart, and he calls me about every time that they send these checks out. And he's like, dude, he goes, everybody's getting their checks because his family member says that people are coming into Walmart like crazy, and like they just sell out of their TVs.
Well, I mean, that's good though. I mean, really?
I mean, that's probably what they want. I mean, when I say is that what the government wants?
Absolutely.
That's what they want, right?
Let's spend it. Put it back in get it generated, get it kickstarted. That's the whole point. Stimulus. To stimulate, get people buying things.
They probably don't like me.
Yeah, and then when you do that, I mean, theoretically, you inject $2 trillion into the economy, you get back $4 in tax revenue, because now
did you just make that up?
No, it's true, because now 30 people want to buy a custom bus. I don't know, custom bus, right? So this custom bus manufacturer now says, man, we got an order of 30 more. This is great. Let's do it. Crank them out. Let's hire more people. Let's do this and that. All of a sudden, they have become more. Now you can tax them more. It's just, that's what you do. It's a little kickstart. I'm not for or against the stimulus either. Honestly, long term, it's probably bad, I guess, because of inflation.
I think two things about all of it. I have been a Dave Ramsey fan over the years. He's a bit far for me, but I do think, again, there's value. Like, he's super fundamental in what he's saying, but there's value in what he's saying. For sure. To tag these other groups back in. I mean, fundamental groups, they're still good. They're still better ways to live. But
I took his course once back when he was teaching years ago. He was teaching it. I want to say it was either 6 or 8 weeks. I can't remember, but it was every Sunday. And, he was there. It was kind of just, he's Dave Ramsey, but really nobody outside of Nashville or Tennessee ever heard of him.
I've been to his house.
Have you?
Yeah, he wasn't there. They were building it. And this was back when I worked at Sherwin-Williams, and we were selling the paint to whatever the contractor was that was painting. And they said, hey, this is going to Dave Ramsey's house. I said, oh, cool, I'll deliver it. So I delivered it. And I go in there, man. I'm looking. He has like a wine cellar with like a big, wrought
Is that the
iron
one
bar.
for sale right now?
I don't know if he's selling it.
Yeah,
it's on the hill.
Yeah, it's furnished. I want to say it's $15 million. I think.
I don't think he paid
Something
but
like
a
that.
million or two for it. So here's what I was saying about all the stimulus. I think there's two frames of thought here. One, in America, conservative-minded people generally pride themselves on. And I shouldn't even say conservative-minded people. I don't know why I said that. There are people that pride themselves on having means and making sure that during hard times they have means. And Dave Ramsey is a big proponent of that when he says that it's not if life is going to happen, it's when life is going to happen. So, I'm 37, you're 45. I mean, as well as I do, you lose jobs, you quit jobs, you get tired of this, you get tired of that. Something bad happens, your car breaks down.
Something breaks.
Something
breaks.
I got a new house here, and I'm 2 years in, and I need to paint outside. Like, there's just the entire world. Dude, let's take it out. Space. Everything is trying to kill everything. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, for a second, can we just look at this from this perspective that the entire world is trying to kill us? To your point, like the jungle. It used to be the jungle.
Right.
And now capitalism and Christianity and some of these other things have knocked back the weeds literally and are keeping a lot of these things from killing us. Well, and those are the things we need to hold on to.
Dude, it used to be when people talk about getting back to nature, nature's a beast, man.
Now that's just like what? Like a full bush?
It's like a trail.
Getting back to nature, bro.
It's like a park trail, man. But dude, nature, it used to be you went outside of your cabin door and you better be strapped. Bears and wolves and all that kind of thing. And depending on where you are in the world.
Well, there's different bears and wolves now too, though, man. I mean, there's people that do want to take our money. There's people that do want to prey on other people.
And that's real. I mean, like you talked about before, like kids getting snatched and all that.
Yeah, like it's not utopia yet. I think you can see, me personally, I'm sitting here on the mic. But anyway.
That's a really good point.
But please
continue that.
Like you can see how we've progressed. and you can see what works and what doesn't, right? And you can see that like a world without everybody killing everybody and ODing on fentanyl and
Oh, that's
you know,
right.
doing meth, and like if you could start to remedy, and I mean, you're talking about seriously complex problems. Like these aren't just snap of the finger, they go away. But we've solved other huge problems before in the past, like an entire tyrannical Germany
Right.
literally exterminating an entire race of people.
Right.
You know, I mean, we've polio. There's other things that are huge and monumental and seem just, I mean, just the sheer power that we have now of computing information is unbelievable. You know, the fact that you have more technology on your cell phone than they had in any of the Apollo missions. I always say that, and I don't know if that's true. I need to fact check.
I've heard that too, but I'm betting now it's to the Challenger.
Hey, dude, those dudes are wild, bro.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? You know that junk wasn't probably any bigger than this.
I know.
3 dudes, probably tighter.
Yeah.
And
they had to do their own math
and they shot you out.
to see
Shot you out to the moon.
All right, push that rocket for 3 seconds. We got to change our trajectory, and then hold on a second. You don't carry the 3, you know? There goes the moon. The moon just
Don't
goes
you think there
by.
should be more stories like that of these dudes blowing up? These dudes are crazy. Do you get that? Like they would strap these dudes into a huge bomb,
Dude,
and blast them off the planet.
And hey, we got to hurry. The Russians are doing it. We got to beat them. So
get these lights. Get those cameras ready.
Yeah. People believe that, man.
What? That the
it was
moon landing didn't happen?
Yeah, that it was a fake.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask you what you think on that.
It's easy. It's super easy. It's absolutely provable. You can prove it from your own yard that we went.
Okay, good. See, I believe. Isn't that crazy? There's 2 sides to that.
Yeah, it's stupid.
There's no in between on that one. Either we did or we didn't.
Yeah, I think it's provable in about 3 or 4 different ways, actually. So they put these little mirrors. I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't look it up. And even though I have a big head, I can't store a lot of information in here. But
Gotcha.
There's mirrors that are literally laid at the site that they can shine lasers to. And I don't know what the original purpose was, but I think I remember it having something to do with being able to measure the distance of the laser hitting the mirror and coming back. And there's also a moon tracker like a Google Earth that you can get on, and you can literally zoom into the sites that they say they went to, and you can see their footprints. They're still there.
What?
Yeah. Look that up.
They can see footprints from here.
Like they have like, yeah. Well, I mean, you could do that with a telescope is what I'm saying. Like you could map it out.
Impossible. A footprint from here? Dude,
No, listen, like they have a Google Earth website.
Yeah.
It's like Google Earth where you could just like go around and
you're saying
Chattanooga,
there's already a picture on there. They're not zooming in.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm saying you could do that, I think.
I don't know, man.
I think you could get
That's
a telescope.
tight image.
Now we're going to have to look that up. But I'm saying that you could, from your yard, if you had the ability to look with binoculars, telescope, whatever. I don't know anything about looking at that. But you could zoom in and you can see their footprints. Like
even
there.
Something bigger than that. They left the rover, or I guess that's what it's called.
The little thing that shot them off. Yeah.
The lamb, I guess.
You know what I don't
It's
know
still
that
there.
I want to know? Do we always see the same side of the moon?
We don't. It rotates, yeah.
Does it?
Neptune stays in one side. I know all this stuff.
Like, I don't know anything about the rotation of the moon, if it rotates or if we always see the same side.
Yeah. There's
I want to know that.
I love solar system and lights.
I need to find somebody that knows that.
Stars.
And then we'll put another chair over here and we'll zoom out.
I'm telling you right now.
Do you know somebody that knows this?
No, I know all this stuff. He's sitting right here.
We don't need the third chair unless you need it.
No. I mean, I could put my foot on it, but no, that's a fascination of mine. It's incredible.
Dude, I love space, bro. Dude, that's actually my name. Like the whole Rocket Man thing is like I told the story last time, so I'm not going to tell it again, but basically I take my kids out to see the space station.
Yeah,
I love it.
We do that.
Dude, the first time that ever happened to me.
Is that not incredible?
Yes.
Dude, Angie had, I want to say it was an iPhone 6 at the time, and we knew that it was coming by. We were in the backyard. She zoomed in. It was a perfect night. It was clear. It was the only thing moving. And she zoomed in on her phone, and you could kind of make out the shape of it.
Do you ever do it with
Took a
binoculars? You
picture.
can see it with binoculars.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. And somebody's in there, man.
17,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they're in there.
Getting it.
Just doing their thing.
Doing their own math.
Yeah. Doing But no,
Dude, those dudes should be like the American dude that's up there now. I'm pretty sure he's an Asian guy. Hopefully there's no like Russian hostility towards Asians in this current Asian hostility climate.
crazy.
Just busting Asians. Dude, Asians never bother anybody, bro.
It's
like, what are they mad
insane.
at? Like buying up all the Toyota
It
Camrys?
has to be.
Like, they don't hurt anybody, bro.
I'm sure it has to do with people being blamed for the corona. It's insane.
I'm going to say this country's name wrong, but there's the whole blow up with, is it Myanmar with Facebook? How, like, there's this, they talk about it in that Social Dilemma documentary where basically the spread of information, like basically people are getting the information they want to get on Facebook. It doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. It's just they've got you pegged as a 45-year-old white male from Tennessee, blah, 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 blah. And you get that. And then you got this 40-year-old guy from Nova Scotia, does whatever he does and plays chess. He's getting that file of stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering, like in this Myanmar, I think that's how you say it, it's basically like there's a group of Muslims that's having to leave because of all this Muslim hate speech that's being propagated, and people are literally killing them. So maybe in this, whatever this crazy dude who just, the one I saw this morning was in San Francisco where there was like a 75-year-old, or she might have been 80, might have been 85. Somewhere she's older. She gets punched in the face by just some random, like, white dude.
Yeah,
He looked like just some dude. So what kind of feed is he on? Like, what's he seeing? Like, Asians are coming to eat white babies? I mean,
Dude,
it's crazy.
That's the problem with social media.
It is.
They're taking things that they're reading on social media from some nut job. Truly. Or let me take that back. They probably want people to read their stuff, so you got to get a little more crazy about the things that you're saying and then you can take this pseudoscience a little bit and you can put that next to it, and then the person that doesn't know any better reads it and thinks of themselves as, someone that needs to do something about it. I mean,
well, like the guy, do you remember the dudes? They talk about this in the Social Dilemma documentary where the dudes are like showing up to pizza places or something because they think there's kids tied up in the basement because of part of sexual rings. It's real.
They pulled a gun on them.
Yeah, it's real.
That
and there's
happened.
video of the dude getting arrested and everything.
I know. I'm glad you brought that up because maybe that's the one progression that we need to put down is social media and its reach, its ability. I don't know. I don't really see a positive out of it.
It's cocaine in your hand. You do realize that, right? Like, I've said this before. I've told so many of my friends this stuff, and this is pre that Social Dilemma documentary. Like, it's a known thing. You have all these people that are coming out that used to work for these companies that literally say, yo, we were using the same engineers that the casinos are using. Like, think about the mentality of a casino where there's no windows. They want you in there. They want you to keep playing. They want you to get your money.
Yeah.
So now think about that same mentality in your pocket 24/7. You don't have to wait and cash your check from the job to go to Tunica. You can literally pull your phone and you posting a picture of your new little grandbaby, me going like, and then all of a sudden you get this endorphin hit.
Wow.
Like, people like me.
I'm somewhat of a
People like-
celebrity.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And the irony of us saying this on a podcast that I'm going to post on YouTube is I seriously don't care if people watch this or not. I want to have real conversations. I don't want to be something I'm not. But you get all these people that start living in this world of like, this isn't really who I am, but I'm getting a lot of likes for posting these pictures of my puppy. Maybe I should start my own puppy page. And then now Instagram literally runs your life because you're posting pictures of your puppy all the time and whatever that is.
Yeah, I think the world according to Wylie states that if I'm going to go to YouTube and look something up, I have an intention of looking something up. I'm not trying to be convinced. So I'm going to look up Craig because I like his videos and he's funny. But Craig is not telling me to go march on the Capitol, Craig is not telling me these things. The problem is and obviously not everybody on social media is like that, but man, we're getting close. There's just too many. I don't know.
There's too many new things. Every day it's a new thing. Every day it's a,
When you're talking about the doing starting a business, okay, I've got these likes, and now this makes sense. Or you see that friend from high school. Man, that was the intent, I assume, from the beginning, was just keep up with people. But it seems like there's groups that hijack it, I think, and it convinces people like me who, I have an Instagram, but it's truly for that purpose of what are my friends doing? I'm not going to conspiracy theory sites. I'm certainly not going to any sort of hate the government sites. I don't know. I think that's where you get in the weeds.
Well, dude, I mean, there's obviously good that comes out of it.
There's a lot of good.
There's this type, any podcast.
And
I love the idea of podcasts,
entertaining.
obviously, but
yeah, and there's plenty of
dude,
good
there's some cool video
information
games
sharing.
Dude, I like playing video games.
Yeah, great video games. You see what people are doing. What I like to see is what people are doing in the gym, and just you gain inspiration sometimes. I mean, there's all kinds of positives.
Information, inspiration, all that stuff's good.
Yeah, I just don't. I think people are yelling at each other too much.
Yeah,
too much, man. When it's
dude, I saw that Social Dilemma documentary said that was it? Man, I want to say where there used to be like 4. I'm going to say this totally wrong. It's going to sound ignorant, but it's like 25%. No, it's 75% less teens actually have like dates that they've ever gone on than like our age. Like, dude, think about when we were in high school.
Oh, you mean like go out?
Like go do something. Like physically, yeah. Like you mean like real life outside your house, not with your phone in your hand.
Gotcha.
Like not Snapchatting half your face, but like literally gone out on a date.
And then filtering it.
And you got to filter it. That way you don't see your blemishes.
Bro.
But dude, think about when we were kids. You had to like get your junk right, bro. Have your favorite shirt on with your sleeves not rolled up like mine have been evidently the whole time.
I rolled my sleeves up.
And like you had to walk up to a girl that you either knew or you didn't and go, "Hey, what's up?" Like physically you had to put yourself out there, which means you'd have to like the girl a little bit to put yourself out there. You put yourself out there, and you know how many times you hear no? I heard a bunch. Maybe it's because I'm ugly. I don't know, but like,
it's the shirt.
It's scared them off.
It's yeah.
But now that you have the safety of your phone, you have all the dating apps. You have Facebook. You have all these different. I mean, dude, think about asking. Like my wife, I didn't know anything about her. I knew that I thought she was cute.
How did y'all meet?
College. Yeah.
Good old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Bro, I knew another dude was going to ask her out to like this event, and I shot in there and like asked first. And now I'm married to her.
I mean, that day?
I don't know.
Isn't that crazy, man? She could have fell for the dude.
Nah, I'm cooler. But no, yeah, but
maybe he had more money.
I don't know what that dude's doing. Maybe he did have more money. I don't know.
But like too back then, I mean, if you had the nice car, you were already in this different level.
Yeah, but did it matter? That mattered to us. Like we thought that mattered.
Right. That's what I mean.
But the girls were probably just like that. I got a dude that likes me.
Right.
Because like we think that only
these days it's not like that. And this is coming directly from my son, who has a girlfriend, Michaela. Hello, Michaela. They're really she's a really good girl. And he has the crappiest car. It used to be our family car.
I don't think girls care, man.
They don't.
We thought they did, bro. I gotta have my Abercrombie on. I gotta have my New Jersey or whatever. I gotta look clean, and then.
Well, and then according to my son, they don't these days. The generation.
So what's the deal?
I mean, everybody wants to have a nice car. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I really don't. I think social media has a little bit to do with it. Not to say that even, by the way, it was probably terrible that our car was our social status back then.
Do you know what's going to be the social status? You know what's going to determine whether somebody dates my daughter or not? And I'm going to have them reference episode 2. they're going to fill out an income earning potential statement.
Exactly.
Because honestly, man, that's what matters.
Yep.
And they're going to understand that
Yep.
my daughter's a princess. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
and to understand too, there's so many norms that are being broke right now.
yeah.
A lot, which is, in my opinion, one in particular. I happen to like women. I have raised one. I have a granddaughter. And I would hope that anybody and everybody would treat them as equals. You know, it's like workplace, relationships, whatever. Why wouldn't they be treated as equals? Why is it still that they feel like that they're not being treated as equals these days? That's a problem.
Well, you know,
and there needs to be some changes, you know.
This is a tough thing for me to say. It really is. And I want you to understand too, like when I'm talking about the Church of Christ stuff, like, I mean, we still go, we still attend. I think they're great people. You know, and obviously having to come out. I'm not coming out and saying like I hate them or something.
Yeah.
But coming out and literally talking about airing out some of the dirty laundry piece of, hey man, I don't know that this. Sorry, man, I should have put salt on it. Like having to say that like some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm not saying that they're wrong. I could go down this entire path, same as you, go down this entire path of thinking through, studying, you know, really learning about humans and human interaction and whatever, and coming back to the conclusion that, man, I really think these people got it going on. I think they're exactly right. I could. Or I could go down the path and go, I think these people are being really fundamental about a way of life that is getting very close to looking like Amish people. I mean, when you're talking about Pentecostals and wearing skirts down and for all these different reasons, and I know they have their reasons, and I'm not saying that modesty in that particular instance is not important. Modesty is very important. I think it's very important to teach girls about being modest, and I think it's very important for a guy to expect modesty out of his wife, or what. Not, when I say expect, I don't mean like demand it, but I mean you want to feel like your wife's body, your wife's person, or whatever, like that it's exclusive to you, you know. Or some people may want their wife to look totally scandalous and everybody look at her. Like there's different mentalities
all over the place.
You know, and I'm not saying one way's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when you have a group that is like the Churches of Christ don't have females that lead worship service in any way. And the terminology is like basically they're to be silent during service. Like they don't say it like that, like cold. Like it's not some kind of, you know, and I don't know enough about Muslims, so I'm going to sound ignorant when I say this, but it's not some sort of like walk 3 feet behind me, super conservative stuff. But it is, you know, there's different roles.
Yeah.
But I also concede the fact that I do think even in life, outside of any type of religious belief, that there are different roles to men and women. I mean, one of the first things you said today is like your wife is better at the kids or whatever, and like you cook and all that. And so me and you started talking, and there were things that you were better at that I'm better at. Like people are just different. And my wife absolutely slays being a mom. Like, I mean, she is great. And I'm not just trying to boost. I'm telling you, like, she's ain't B.
Yeah, that's the way my wife is.
Like, I've literally sat in the car and been like, hey, what's it like knowing you're going to go to heaven? Because I'm a troubled.
Well, and I ask Angie all the time, you know, what should I do here? How should I approach this when it comes to, you know, talking? Amanda, my daughter, she can be the sweetest thing or she can be the most terrifying thing. It depends on what mood that she's in. She's mostly the sweetest thing. But that's what I mean. Like there's been times over the years when we were raising her I wouldn't know what to do. So I would talk to Angie, you know. What do I do here?
Was your wife raised religious at all?
Yeah, she was Catholic.
Catholic. Why?
They're just all over the place, man.
At least she was a girl.
She was raised Catholic and I was apostolic, and you know, mentioning the Halloween thing too. They would have Halloween parties at church. You know, they would hand out candy at church with the kids and the private schools, and you know. But when I was coming up, that was terrible. That was something that just didn't happen. You just didn't have Halloween and trick-or-treating because it was of the devil. Dress as a ghost, dress as a witch, whatever. It's evil, you know. So like
Dude,
I
I
said,
remember those feelings. I'm telling you.
I know.
Like,
I know you know.
I mean, dude, my mom has walked in my room and busted Metallica CDs.
Yeah.
And, like, I literally remember, like, you think about everything. Is this wholesome? Is this not wholesome? Is this
All the time.
You know the best
You were
advice I
thinking
ever
that.
had, and it was just from some other teenager? He was like, I think it was, I was trying to listen to, man, I don't know. Dude, I was, like, into Pink Floyd and, like, just stuff that, man, at the time, like, even you think about Pink Floyd, that's not that out there, man. Like, it's just weird. It's not, Satan, like, literally, like, quoting some Satan verses. I don't know. But, like, he goes, man, I think there are some things that are secular and there's some things that are religious. He goes, but, like, not everything secular is necessarily bad.
Sure.
And then you start thinking about, even from the perspective of what religious people believe, like, if God created everything, then that means, and like, whatever this purpose is that we have in us, and if it's supposed to be written on our hearts that we're supposed to love God, or we're supposed to create, and one of the things I always really dive into is this idea that if God really does exist, and I'm not saying it like that because I don't believe God exists. I'm just saying, if God really does exist, and what they say is true, that God created the world and he created us in his likeness, well, then that means we're creators too. So that's where I start to get confused too, because I think that there are some parallels that would prove that there's some sort of higher power. But that led me to one of the craziest things that I've ever thought in my entire life, and that's that Christians possess the ability to believe in aliens. Like, they already have the structure to believe in aliens, but if you say it in the form of aliens, kind of going back, you remember earlier when I was talking about the two different tests. So if I said to you, and let's say you're Mr. Preacher Man, and you're all into it, you have no doubts about it whatsoever, you're all in, 100% true to you. Do you believe that there's life outside of Earth on other planets? And they may say, well, the Bible doesn't say anything about life on other planets.
It would start that way. Yeah.
Right. But we believe in angels, and we believe in God, and we believe that Jesus is preparing a place for us, and we believe that all these other things. So is it possible that Jesus was, this is crazy to speak, by the way, but is it possible that if there is a higher intelligence than us, whether that's an alien or whatever, or whether that's God, or, whatever this race is out there that's three people in one, whatever that is, it's somewhere else besides here. So is that not intelligence outside of Earth?
I got another one for you. That's
basically Christians believe in aliens. That's all I'm saying.
That's along those lines.
You like that?
Yeah, I do. You're gonna love this one.
I'm ready.
So you know how I am with Halloween. I'm writing a book. I don't know actually when I'm going to be done because I've already.
What's it about?
That's the second rewrite. I can't. I'm not going to tell you the ending.
Is it like no? Is it like a storybook, or is it like about you?
Oh yeah, it's just
like a
fiction.
story. Okay, yeah, that's
a ghost story.
Okay,
yeah. So I have a tiny little question, hypothesis, theory, whatever you want to call it. So as Christians and believers, people around the world, all different religions, all over the place believe in witchcraft. They believe in demons and possessions and Jesus and God. Not Gandhi. I almost said Gandhi. What's the Hindu? I forgot his name. Anyway, all the different.
You know what I went to right there to reach for that information?
What?
I didn't know the answer to your Hindu question, but I was like, George Harrison was into that junk. And then I immediately thought, how did that song go? And he's like,
huge
Hare
into it.
Krishna. And I was trying to think of the.
He was huge, yeah. So all religions believe, all of them, of all those things that I told you about. Why is it so hard for us to believe, and I'm just going to pick on Christians, I guess, that we believe in angels, we believe that there's demons, we believe that there's a Satan, that there's a God, that there was an epic battle in heaven, and he was cast out along with his followers who tried to overthrow God for leadership, that the angels still exist, that they still come to earth and visit and send messages, that the demons still walk around, trying to take people, trying to get them to commit sin and separate us from God. We believe all of these things, but why is it so hard to believe that someone saw a ghost in a house somewhere? Is it truly that
I'll tell you why.
that there is that much?
Because the Bible didn't say that somebody saw somebody in a house.
So in my opinion, and I this is just
I
me.
am agnostic towards ghosts. I don't want anybody thinking I believe. I really don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah,
but it's because I've never had an experience.
That's what I was getting at. That's where I was.
Have you had a ghost experience?
I've had a ghost.
Can I go to the bathroom before this
Yeah,
ghost
man.
experience? If anybody's watching at this point, it's part of the show, right?
You're right, dude. When you get into talking about this, all of a sudden, all of this disappears. It really does.
Dude, when you leave here today, I'm telling you, your mind will just go, like, just all the possibilities. Wylie Jones, second set. We had to stop.
Yep.
You know, I was thinking last night I was going to come up with some kind of ambiguous rules, like somebody's got to come on my podcast one time before I do, like, sets.
Yeah.
But then I thought, man, what could I do that would be different? And I was like, man, I could be like the Dead. I could be like the Grateful Dead and do like a set. And then my head went that direction, and I was thinking, like, man, it would really give you the opportunity to stop and go, hey, do we need to finish anything? Like I imagine the Dead going backstage and just being like, man, that jam was killer, man. Like, what are we going to do second set? And then they just get some kind of ideas and just that, like, spontaneity. So anyway, second set, Wylie Jones, Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories. So
you were about to tell us this is a great opener for my second set.
So I had an experience at a girlfriend's house.
How old were you?
And this is actually going to be it's the other project I'm working on. I've already started. I kind of put it on hold to finish the first one, but anyway. So long story short, there had been a death in the house, and it was very recent, within months. Okay.
So this is whose house?
A girlfriend's house. I am 18 or 19 at the time.
Is this
19.
in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't live there, but I was over there a lot, spent the night, whatever. Well, without getting into too much of it, there was a death in the house, and it was not very nice. It was a very bad situation, and it was actually a murder, right? So I never met this person, but this person was murdered, who happened to be.
So this is like
we had already been seeing each other.
So the dude got murdered. Like whoever got murdered.
Yeah.
Y'all were together.
We were together.
Then they got murdered.
So
it was like a recent murder, not
she
like
found
some.
him. She found
So
him in
your
the house.
girlfriend found the dude who got murdered. Okay.
She was the one that found him in the house. Had no idea. She thought that he was asleep, but he had been shot.
Dang.
So pretty tough. And I had to be. Police were already there by the time I got there. She called me screaming. Police were already there. News crews were there. So answered questions and that sort of thing. And we're out in the yard for a couple of hours, and they asked for, did she need to get anything out of the house, because they're just gonna tape it off. Can't come in here. There's blood everywhere. There's brain matter. I mean, it's terrible. So anyway, I was the one that went in there, got her purse and some clothes, and she came stayed at my place. So after a week or two, I want to say it was about a week, there was insurance, they bring in a cleanup crew after that, clean up all the biohazard. They take up the subfloor, they take up the carpet, anywhere that there's blood or, biohazards, they pull all that up and put it back together, So we were waiting on that. She was staying with me, and we it's not like we forgot about it, but we kind of forgot about it. And then she got a call back saying that the house is clean, you can go back in now. And her mom wasn't prepared to go back, so she stayed with some friends out of state. And she asked me to go with her and stay the first night back. All right, so I stayed the night with her. The very next morning, I'm getting up to go open this gym I used to work at. And I'm awake. I'm still kind of stretching in the bed, and the room was dark, but at the end of the bed was this dude standing there. A dude.
God.
Not transparent, not floating, not wearing
Had you
a
ever
sheet.
seen the guy before?
Never saw him before in my life. But I could.
Did you drink or do
It's-
drugs the night before?
Nope. No, I was actually bodybuilding at the time, so I had a clean bill of health. My my girlfriend's still asleep next to me, and
Cohabitating.
yeah, exactly. So she's asleep next to me, and she didn't hear the alarm go off or anything. And the only thing I could think of, and I'm staring at this guy who's wearing a long sleeve shirt, pants, and he's at the end of the bed. Without going into too many details, we're in a room where it's a really big room. It was a converted rec room, and it's a bedroom. So this guy was a pretty good distance away, but I could still make him out, even though the lights were off, because there was other, you know how like a VCR light. She had a VCR. Let's tell you how old I am, but there was a VCR there, so there's a little light coming off of it. You made out of shape. I made out what clothes he was wearing. I know it was a button-up long sleeve shirt, and he's just standing there looking at us, man. And
Did you see it? Was it in like full color?
well, it was a dark room, but my eyes were fixed. And plus, when you open up that door, it was a split level house. So I don't know if you know the level layout of it, but you open that door, and then there's another, like a living room, a small living room there. They always kept a light on in that room, so that light was coming in through the cracks of the door. So I had that. And I had made out that it was, what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing. That this is, like I said, it was not an apparition. It's not like you could see through the guy. And the only thing I thought of was whoever killed that dude is back. That's the only thing I could think of. My heart was racing. I was scared. I didn't have anything to hit this guy with. So the only thing I did was just lay still, and I was watching him just to see what he would do. And after a minute, he turned and he walked over to the corner of the bedroom, and he had even more distance away from me now. But I'm watching him. He took steps. I mean, there was nothing ghost about it at all. Fresh on my mind with the murder that had happened. Scared to death. So I'm feeling around for something to hit this guy with, and the only thing I found was this It was a vase type thing, but it had like a trophy bottom, if that makes any sense. That piece of marble at the bottom. I thought, I'm gonna hit him with it. So I reach over, and there's a pull string light, lamp. You just pull the string, not one that you turn, little knob. And I'm watching him, and I hit that light, and he's gone. I'm talking about there's nobody there, dude. I'm looking at him, and I stand up, and my heart's racing. I got it drawn back. I'm gonna hit him with. And then I'm looking around the room, and where'd he go? How did he do that? That was fast. So then I went to the closet, and I'm looking around, and by this time Lisa's awake. What are you doing? And I didn't tell her, I didn't want her to worry. And I really did chalk it up to, well, I just imagined it. It's a dream or something.
Like that's what you thought. Like after it happened.
Oh yeah.
You were like, man.
I just dismissed it, and I said, man, okay. I must have been dreaming it, even though I was
like,
awake.
Saying it, like it sounds crazy. Like I know you know that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But so, I go.
So had you guys been talking about was it like a big deal? Like, I mean, obviously somebody
never
gets murdered.
brought it up.
No, I'm saying like him getting murdered. Was it something that like
we tried not to talk about it, honestly, just because. Honestly, my girlfriend at the time, she, I think she got some PTSD out of it.
Had he been buried? Was he like? Where was his funeral service in that time?
Went back home to another state. Yeah. So from what I understand, but so it wasn't that long after that incident that we were back in that same room looking through photo albums, and I'm with my girlfriend, and we're looking through the photo albums, and I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. We came across this one picture of one particular guy that looked incredibly familiar in this one picture. And I said, who was that? And she says, I mean, this is my dad, but the pictures that you've seen throughout the house. And I said, no, she said, there's only 3 up, something like that, 2 or 3. I forget what it was, but it wasn't many at all. Just he had gotten sick and he died. There wasn't a whole lot of time. You know, it was just awful, you know. So she started crying. She was very upset. We're sitting in that same room. I'm sitting on the bed. She's sitting on the floor with all these photo albums out, you know. And it was her dad. Her dad, you know.
Was that the guy you saw?
That's the guy I saw.
You think he killed the dude?
It was.
He killed the dude, bro.
I don't
Hey,
know.
did they ever solve it? He killed him.
I really don't know.
He axed him.
I talked to her. I was trying to get some research because it's been so many years. I'd found her.
Hey, bro, you can't convict other ghosts.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, research for a project I might do, and I took a lot of notes, and it was just a lot of things I'd even forgotten that was just spookier.
Have you ever watched podcasts with like people who have say they've seen aliens or had like abduction stories? Like, do you get into that?
I try not to get into the weeds with that stuff.
Yeah, but I'm saying it sounds similar in the fact that most people don't have that experience. Like, most people haven't seen a ghost. I mean, I don't even know if that's stuff people really talk about, you know, like, because you could, if you really believed that you saw it, you wouldn't talk about it a whole lot, because you know that a lot of, I mean, we've talked about some of these fundamentalistic ideas where it's like there's a whole lot of people that wouldn't necessarily believe that, religious or not. Like,
right.
I mean, me personally, like I said, I'm agnostic towards it.
Yeah.
Because I've never had an experience towards that.
And guess what? I'm not going to judge you.
But I know that but I mean, even to your point, like the Bible literally talks about things that I don't think really get discussed. Like, you know, I mean, you were mentioning demons and angels in set 1. You were mentioning demons and angels and all that. I mean, how does that play into, you know, it doesn't really talk about how we would see them, how we would experience them. Like, how do we know some of these things?
You have religions that say that there was no mention of instruments in the church in the Bible, so therefore we're not having. Well, there was no mention about being visited by ghosts to watch over their daughter. You know, there was no mention of it, so therefore it was. Well, there was plenty of examples of angels visiting and demons, and you know, tempting Christ and all that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it's that far-fetched. If we're going to believe,
well, I think what's crazy is that someone would judge your perspective and say, like, oh, you experienced this thing that we don't believe, but you're taking the word of someone else who said they experienced these things that are similar to what this person's saying. It's just, it was written about. Do you get what I mean by that?
Absolutely. And if not to prove that there's ghosts by saying this, but you hit on something just there too. It's a fact of life that to make judgment on somebody that has experienced something that they haven't, it's probably a bad position to be in.
Well, I think there's a lot of that. Money.
Oh, it's
like
it's
how you're going to judge. How can you judge someone who has $1 billion?
Hey, money's not everything. Okay, tell that to the guy that makes $12,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
you know,
perspective is everything. Yeah, so I mean,
it may not be everything, but you know, I really need some right now. But let me finish this real quick. So we should have talked about this from the beginning. I'm super pumped. I get excited talking about this stuff, but she was sitting on the floor, you know, looking through all this stuff, and I told her, I said, she started crying, dude, and out of the blue just started crying. She was talking to me, and she just tells me, she says, I see him here once in a while. I said, okay, well, things are starting to make sense now. She told me that.
She said, like, had she ever told you that before?
Never.
That was the first time.
We never had a conversation. There was once or twice that she talked about her dad. It was, I'm not going to say strange, because there's people grieve in different ways, and people, you know, they deal with PTSD in different ways, that kind of thing. But this is the first time, man. And she told me that, and I said, okay, And, hair standing up and back of my neck. I've never had this experience before. I thought it was all silly, ghost stories and all that. And still in the mind frame, of religious upbringing. But then she cried a little bit more, and I told her, I said, look, here's what happened. And I told her. She cried some more, and and I told her, I said, well, maybe we should put some flowers on his grave. It looks like I may have seen your dad. If you've seen your dad before here too, then you know what I'm talking about.
God, dude. So hold up. So you're asleep, and you wake up
terrified.
And dude,
there he is.
So, but I mean, thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Like he could have been standing there all night. What's a ghost got to do?
Yeah.
They don't have anything to do. I mean, if what you're saying is absolutely real, here he is, just like watching you hang out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and we truly did. I mean, it was.
And then there's this piece where he might have killed this other dude.
That house was, yeah, that house had a whole different spirit and a whole different look to it when we got there that night. The first night back, and they actually handed the keys over at about 6:00, and it was already getting dark. It wasn't even during the day we could go back in. It was at night. And that was the first time that we'd been back into that place, was after this dude was killed in the house. So we stayed away from the bedroom.
So what, was he shot?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you said that, didn't you?
Yeah. Very bloody. Very, very bad. So the scene was definitely bloody.
Did they ever solve it? Did anybody go to jail for it?
I can't remember. From talking to her, the last time I talked to her, she said that she hadn't heard anything back, and that her sister hadn't heard anything back either. So I doubt it. It's just, they said he was kind of a street person, as in, street life, drugs, and and it just, I guess, caught up with him. But so I told my girlfriend, maybe we should take flowers to his grave or something, and well, we don't need to do that because his urn is right over there. So her mom kept his ashes in the room with her over the bed. It's right there. Yeah, it was there the whole time. I never even noticed. But that room was so big. If you closed off that wall, the bed would be right here, and this door would be over here. It was that far away, but I could clearly make that out. It was not. But all that to say this, that it has inspired me, and I've sat with it for years and thought, man, I'm just gonna start. I've always wanted to write. I always thought that would be cool. So I'm giving it a shot at it,
Do you know something that's always inspired me about you? And I'm not just sucking up to you right now. I'm being serious. When I first met you,
I should be sucking up. I like that shirt.
You like that?
Yeah.
Dude, I bought this at a Neil show. This isn't some. I got it off his website a year later. Dude,
I like that.
I got out of college. Thank you. I wanted you to ask me about this because I wanted to talk about the Boston Bomber.
Boston what?
Boston Bomber. I wanted to bring something up about, we were talking about social media, and I have this theory that the whole Boston Bomber thing, like, I don't know if you remember this, but they blow the race up, and then he says, like they say, everybody send your photos and videos and everything you have of the race.
Yeah.
I actually believe that right there never happened. Have you ever sent any photos and videos? Maybe you have, but I need to stop saying that. But I think that the federal government, had the ability to see who all's phones were there, extracted all that. Like, why wouldn't they?
They confiscated them all.
But I'm saying, like,
I know.
would you have to confiscate the phones, or could you just go out and extract data? So my theory is that they literally had all the photos and videos as soon as they wanted it, and they had those dudes pretty quick. Like, that's my theory.
Sorry.
What's your?
A lot of them were confiscated in the sense that they were laying around, so they got picked up, and then
from being blown up.
Oh yeah, people injured, lost their phone. It's still sitting there. The investigators come in. Here's a cell phone. Okay, let's run it. Then you had people that voluntarily, from what I understand, law enforcement, especially FBI, federal government, was was Boston PD that collected them because they're helping the federal government, obviously, and that's a big task. Go to all the hospitals, track down these people. There's probably some people that had video that were scared to death and drove home, you know. So there was a big outreach, or there was a big effort on help us with this investigation. So a lot of people handed over their phones.
But you don't think if the FBI or the CIA decided, okay, Nashville bombing goes off, what all cell phones were pinged within a whatever mile radius? Like, do you think they can get that information?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if they have that information.
That part.
What I'm saying is I think that if they want to, they could now go, okay, all those cell phones right there, all right, give us all the pictures and phone data off there. Like, why can they not do that? Like, how's that any different from what George W. Bush and those guys were doing after 9/11? Like, would they not have the ability, if they really, like, we're all scared that somebody's like, well, I'm not scared of it, I don't care. But, like, they're going to look at my data. They're going to look at my messages. They're going to look at my photos. They're going to look at my whatever. Like, don't you really think that if they wanted to, that if the CIA or the FBI really wanted to know what's on Wylie Jones' phone or on my phone, they could?
I don't think so, man.
You don't think so?
I mean, I guess they could. Technically, they could. But, dude, that's a lot.
But now you have somebody who bombs the Boston Marathon. Like, the Boston Marathon, I mean, now we think about it, Boston Marathon, it gets kind of married up with that Boston bombing. But the Boston Marathon has been like a staple of the United States for, I don't know how long. Forever. I mean, it's a big deal.
But, dude, that's a lot.
And they bombed it.
That's a lot of stuff to go through. How many people do they have analyzing these videos? And I don't mean, like, fast forwarding. Like, they'll watch one video out of somebody's phone.
Well, it's going back to, think about the computing power.
500, you know.
But I get what you're saying, and I agree.
It's a monumental task.
But now think about the fact that Facebook does that every day with every person that's on there. Like, they've written these algorithms to do that. So why would we think that if we're really as bad as we say we are, big, you know, stars and stripes, don't you think they would be able to take all that data in some way? It's not their first rodeo. Like, I mean, there has to be some sort of computing power for images and video to where they could put it in some sort of, you know, 3D realm and start to kind of map out who was where and come up with leads. I mean, that's my thought. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm not smart in that way, so I can't.
I bet technically it's possible. I think technically.
I'm not saying it's what happened.
Right.
Like, I mean, I did kind of say it like it's what happened.
We have the technology, sure, to do things like that.
Well, I mean, you're a big fan of Black Mirror, the show.
Yeah, great show.
It's that same kind of idea. Like, my wife asks me all the time, like, why does your mind stay in these crazy areas? Like, how are you able to go to church all the time, but then sit here and ask whether God exists? And like, how could you sit here and talk about that believing in aliens and demons and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God is the same as believing that aliens exist on other planets? But, like, I really enjoy my mind going there and just being able to expand the possibilities of what might be possible.
Do you struggle with these things, Sam?
Yeah, I used to, but not really now. I'm pretty.
You do mention it.
I'm pretty founded in what I. But
me too. I agree. I still.
But think about it. Like, you know, you were saying earlier. I forget what artist you were saying. You're like, if I could ask him, Marilyn Manson. You said if I could ask him, whatever. You know, the lead singer of Tool, Maynard. My wife and I both have been able to ask him questions. He did this little book tour, and we both got to. You submitted a question, and our questions were chosen. And so, not that I met him, but literally I got to sit at City Winery in Nashville and ask him something that I really wanted to know. And I said, why is it that all three of your musical projects, as well as your wine project, why do they always seem to have themes, biblical themes? You know, like he's got the one song that his mom had cancer. And she was super Christian,
I hate that word.
And they had, it's a suck word. I hate cancer more than I hate the word racism, I think. Could you hate something more than racism?
Kumquat is a terrible word.
Moist.
Ugh. I hate that word.
I think moist is pretty bad. But anyway, what was I saying, man?
I don't know. Were we talking about cake?
No, we weren't talking about cake at all. We were talking about the religious thing and staying on those ideas. So no, I don't struggle with them. But when I asked Maynard, I said, "Hey, why do all your projects have biblical themes?" And he's like, "Well, I was talking about cancer. Let me pick it up from there. His mom had his mom had his mom did not have moist cancer. She just had cancer.
Oh my god!
And
why are we laughing at
his
that?
mom had moist racist cancer.
Oh, terrible.
And
words.
so anyway, we got to get all these words out, man. I got freedom of speech, right?
I mean, how do you put kumquat in there though? That's a bad one.
While his mom was eating kumquats,
Ugh.
she got a
That's
call
what caused it.
and she picked up her moist telephone. She placed the moist telephone upon her ear.
Ugh.
And speaking was a guy that sounded like he was racist.
Anybody that walks in or tunes into this and starts at this point will be so offended, and they don't even know
Good.
why. You know what I mean?
Good. People need to be offended. You know why?
They wouldn't know why. Because these are all legit words,
yeah,
but they're just
legit
sound
words.
terrible. They
And I just
sound
told a story
horrible.
about how this guy's mom had moist cancer. So anyway,
it's
so
not
seriously,
funny.
it's not funny that his mom had moist kumquat cancer. So it's not funny at all. It's
Of course not.
And
It's
I like
just the
him and
words.
respect
The
him very
words is
much.
what I'm laughing at.
So his mom has cancer, and he writes this song because his mom was from a super fundamentalist group that believed that because she had cancer, that she had done some sort of sin to deserve
Right.
this in her life, like that mentality.
How terrible.
And so
is
he
that?
wrote a song that was basically saying like, F that.
Ugh.
And so anyway, I asked him why, and he said, well, he goes, it's like a starting point. It's something everyone knows about.
Sure.
It's something that really does affect everyone. So the reason I feel red pilled a little bit, to be honest with it. I'm still there. I still think it's important in a lot of ways. But again, the whole baby with the bathwater thing. I mean, I really do think that it is not Christianity that we see in these groups. It's a religious thing that is developed out of these differences that we talked about. So you got one book, you got all these people that view it a different way, and then this group says snakes and long skirts and foot washings, and this group says Lord's Supper every Sunday, whatever. But you got all these different groups. So then what happens? They all start like jockeying for their group.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make the groups bad. Like, I don't understand that mentality
That's
of like
the other part.
It's very tribal. It's very what we grew up on, 80s USA, which is, Rocky's beating up the Russian dude, down with Russia. Like, but now I don't have beef with Russian people. They're cool. Like,
I am not going to
I
try
don't know.
to change the apostolic belief at all. I know that it's full of good people, but I'm just not going to go there anymore.
yeah. And so to get back to, I guess, where all this is stemming back, where I started.
Yeah.
So asking that question, and you asked me why, like, it seems like it bothers me. It does bother me because, I am, like, obviously my family is still very tied to a group that I believe is fundamentalist, and I don't see how they could deny. There's no way you could rationally make an argument that Churches of Christ, Baptists, like, they're fundamentalist groups. What I also believe about a lot of these groups, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying anyone's wrong.
True.
I'm not saying anyone's stupid. I'm not saying anyone should quit tomorrow.
True.
I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is these groups are fundamentalists. They're separatists. I mean, when you think about a group who
Very
literally
much so.
defines themselves as, we're the ones who have figured it out. We're the ones who got back to the scripture, and we're doing it the way it was supposed to be done. And this is how we're going to proceed from here. And we're not going to change anything. But those people over there that kind of believe what we believe, but they don't fully baptize people, they sprinkle, or they have snakes, or those people think they can heal, or they think they can heal like God's healing through them. Like we got a scripture for that kind of defines that out. That's separatism. When you start blocking each other off.
That's a good point.
Like now you have in our communities, you have, and this is any community, basically you go to, this is the, like if you just broke it like an ice tray in every little community in Tennessee, you tell me this is not true. You got this Church of Christ here. You got the Black Church of Christ here. You got the other Church of Christ that like broke away from this church like several years ago. You got like maybe one Catholic church. You got like
all the different kinds.
You got a Baptist church. You got the big like new church that has like the new Instagram and everything that everybody's kind of gravitating towards, that all these other groups are losing their people to.
Super church.
And they're saying, oh, they say things like they're liberal, or they are they liberal? Like these are the questions I'm asking. Like, okay, like things that would define liberalism within churches of Christ would be praise teams. So like as opposed to one guy getting up and leading singing, it would be like a group of people, maybe one dude's still doing that, but maybe people are sitting on the front row and they sing the different parts. You know, like things like that start creeping into the churches, or people get the idea that like, hey man, maybe our singing would sound better if we, you know, whatever that is, you know, that would be considered liberalism within the churches of Christ. Or like women leading in worship, that would be like a liberal Church of Christ. But dude, I got introduced to this super early, and I want to tell one story, man. So I grew up in a youth group. I still think it was a great use of my time. You know, I went to a good college. I met my wife, and I've always asked the question, why do I believe this? Some people don't like that I ask that, by the way. It makes them uncomfortable. A lot of people don't want to have to ask the question themselves. They want to just keep going and feeling good about it, and it be fine, and it be safe, and me be able to go to work, and I'm good. But I don't do that. I ask the question, why? Like, why is the Church of Christ says that we don't have like the Southern Baptist Convention, like we don't have this central ruling government within CSE. But if you go to every one of them, they mostly use the same songbooks, the layout's the same, the pews look the same, the service is exactly the same, they use the same, it's called the Gospel Advocate, like they get all their materials from the same place, most of their kids end up going to the same college. To me, that kind of sounds like the same thing. It's a hierarchy of knowledge. It's like a channel of thought that they just keep this Ferris wheel of thought going. And to me, I want to add, like, you have so much knowledge now, man. We've talked about phones, and we've talked about computers, and we've talked about social media. We have data and we have information and stuff that we could bounce some of this stuff off of now. Like, I'm not meaning that you're going to do it and all of a sudden you're going to redefine everything that the churches of Christ believe. Like, I'm not saying that. Or why would you even want to? Like, maybe you just get to the point where you go, hey, look, all these things that we do that we're comfortable with, that's our culture. But the important pieces are grace to other people. Yeah. Grace, if it's true or not, it's still true. If Jesus died and was buried and came back, or if none of that happened and it's made up, what I'm saying is it's still important that we love. It's obviously important that we love each other and we show grace on people. It's that simple. And that's where I'm at now. Like that's why I bring it up, to bring it full circle. Like, I bring it up because I know that given where, like, we literally live in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, and you know that's true.
Yeah. I would hope, man.
I mean, is what I'm saying making sense? Does it make sense? Is there any of it that sounds crazy to you?
No, it's I would hope that even if you and I disagreed on things, that we would have as friends some of the, I don't know what the word would be, same characteristics.
But see, I guess I don't see disagreement that way anymore. Like, and I know this is going to sound super hippy dippy, but if I say something and then you say the opposite, like I might be dumb. I might not know something that you know. So to me, it just seems like opinions are a piece of a bigger puzzle. Nobody's opinion, and there's nothing more American than that either, is there? Like, everyone's opinion in America is equal, or at least it should be. You should have to be alive for your opinion
Yeah.
to be equal to mine, right?
Yeah.
But
and yeah.
But I'm saying when we go vote, your vote counts the same as mine.
Right.
But opinions sometimes aren't really like that. It's like whoever has the control or has the power, their opinions become like the norm. Like that's why things like this are so brilliant. Is like I'm talking to you. We talk about all these things that we didn't even really know we were going to talk about. We get to the bottom of some of this
I love
stuff.
I figured it out.
And you know, like I don't like people view disagreement as violence in a way. You know, and I think you see this with older generations too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was very much, you know, I think you see it with like Asian, like people think Asians are really aggressive. Like if you go to Chinatown or whatever, they're jumping in there, they're grabbing, they're whatever. But like they literally live around how many people in China? They're used to having to bump for their space. But like you said earlier, and I think it's a great theme going through this, we don't live in the jungle anymore, man. When we walk outside, I'm not having to look left and look right and make sure some cowboy hadn't rode into town that's going to try to take my head off. We don't think like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean that to sound like an anti-gun statement or anything either, but I just think, man, that we really need to look at what's good and what is causing improvement, because here's the reality. What we end up having, it would be perfect if these little groups that I keep looking down here, like the Pentecostals are here and the Church of Christ here.
Sure.
But if they were really doing what they say they were called to do, and this is my charge that I've given so many times, man, like if these groups were really doing what they were called to do, I think you would see what they call the fruits of the Spirit just pouring out of these places. I think you would be able to look at the communities and go, this is what that group is doing for the community. Like, this town would not be the same without them. Nashville, oh man, when the bomb happened, that church and this church and this church, they just jumped in. But I don't know, and I don't mean to blanket all churches. There are some really great churches, and I really think the church that I go to is not the norm of what I've seen in the churches of Christ. And what I mean by that is usually in the churches of Christ, everything's hush-hush. There's an elder at our church that openly says that he was an alcoholic. And the first time I heard him say that, like, I literally about fell out. It was the most real thing I'd heard since I was in college, hearing another grown kid tell me about how he didn't want to watch porno or something anymore. Like I've had that level of talks with people before, like, hey man, I do this thing, I really don't want to do it anymore. But to see it in a full congregation, like it just be on display, and this dude's a leader of the church, it's powerful to me, man. Yeah. It's so powerful to me because it hits.
This is normal.
Like it hits where everything's needed. Drug addiction.
Sure.
Porno addiction.
We're all human.
Yeah.
We're all fallible.
So I don't understand why we continue to have this under the rug swept mentality. And I think a little bit of it's older people, but going back to my violence statement, any time that like I start to disagree with you, it's like, oh, you can't do like there is no tell me that there is actual disagreement and discourse going on in these groups. Like, hey bro, hey man, we're believing this stuff that these dudes did back in the 60s. Like if any of y'all fact check this stuff, like I'm still coming. I'm not trying to quit, but like, I mean, we're talking like we got a vice president that's a female, bro.
Yeah. Like
she couldn't come to this church and give a speech. Like, has anybody thought about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, not that we would want her to, but I'm just saying, like, if one of these other like Church of Christ hoes gets in here, you know, we might want her to come talk. Like, why? I don't understand, bro. Like, that part makes as about as much sense as trying to tell other people what words they can and can't say. It's the same thing, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I guess one area of restriction is more accepted than the other. I don't know. Or it just hasn't been addressed enough. Maybe that's it.
So here's a fallacy that I think exists. And they will, Church of Christ, anybody will disagree with me on this if they're a religious person. I don't personally believe that morality, like going back to the way me and you were taught. If you listen to Metallica CD, if you listen to Marilyn Manson, if you go see Freddy Krueger, like you want to wear a Jason t-shirt, like you're a freak. Right. Like you're a freaky kid. Yeah. You probably want to wear Jinkos and Airwalks. And then you're going to get into skating and like Tony Hawk.
Tightrope pants.
Like whatever that is,
it was not. Tightrope pants? You know what I'm talking about?
No, but I knew a dude that did. I knew a dude that did, bro, like up to like, I think he still does. But like I saw it like a couple years ago, a dude that still does it.
Still?
Yes.
Hmm.
Hey, you care? Hey, bro. He's doing his thing.
I could do it. I just don't.
But, yeah.
But I think, man, I don't know. I think a lot of people, the world that we live in has become so digital that we've stopped being humans to one another and neighbors. And
well, what I was going to say too is the morality piece. With churches will disagree with me on this. I do not think that morality necessarily stems just from religion. So think about it like this. Remember when I was saying earlier that if you're Church of Christ, if you're born in this area, you're probably Church of Christ, Baptist, something like that, or Catholic or whatever. So you're born into that. But it's the same as Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists are born into it over there. Now, do you think that they don't have that same little social construct circle that I was talking about where, like, especially Muslims, like, if all of a sudden you don't want to do the arranged marriage and you don't want to, bro, that's a lot of problems. Like, we don't understand those type problems. If you want to quit church, your grandmama's going to think you're going to hell. Maybe a couple of your friends think you're going to hell. And then that's kind of over with, and they just think you're backsliding. And maybe you lose some friends. But over there, it could be a serious deal. But my point is why does it have to be so tribal like that? Like, why can't we understand that we're here to help people? Yeah. And that was the point. The point, hey, this whole, like, go into, I'm going to get off my soapbox here in just a second, I swear. But, like, that whole, like, go into the world and preach the good news was not the rules from these little, like, separate groups that all define their thing. But that's what they do. Mm. You know, like, it's like, it'd be like cross evangelism. Like, how many people you think, like, learn about Christianity one way and then like, oh, that's kind of crazy. And then they meet somewhere along the way and they're like, oh, this one sounds a little better. Like, I'd say there's, like, a lot of that. Like, but, like, why do we have to be so tribal about it and not realize that this whole go into the world and preach the good news, like, is about Jesus and not the rules that we've made up. So even if Jesus existed or didn't, I still think the message of love, like, how many times have you just been like, man, that dude needs Jesus, man? Like, it would just fix it.
This is going to totally make me sound bad to any Christian listening to this, okay? But
probably not, bro. I really believe more people are in the closet like this on it, where they want to speak up and they want to talk about it.
Here's one. Is there a possibility that it's a business too?
It's absolutely a business.
So,
even if it didn't start that way.
The only way you're going to have money, and there's a lot of them for rightfully so. There's a certain amount that goes into missions. There's a certain amount that goes into helping locally, schools or whatever. But you still have to have members.
Dude,
you know
here's
you got to get those people in the seats and not let them go to this place, you know?
Since you went out on a limb, you want me to go out on a limb?
Man, I just did it.
I'll go out on a limb with you.
Sorry.
I have always had a problem with paid pulpit preachers.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
But they put in a lot of work.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not needed. But what I'm saying is the general idea, like the construct of it, doesn't make sense to me. And I do think it's an Americanism. Like, I do. Like, what they would say is that Paul was a missionary and he got paid and they gave him money, blah, 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 blah. I want to see the examples of paid, put my Donald Trump fingers, I want to see paid pulpit preachers. I want to see examples of that, because here's what you have in America. You have a guy who's given a speech and he's getting paid by the people he's giving the speech to. Sounds a lot like politics, sounds a lot like public speaking. Like, his message and his well-being and him being liked and received and all that is based on his message. So don't you think it's just human nature that your message is going to kind of erode over time? Like you're going to do like what we're doing right now. You're going to jump out here on a limb and you're going to say that Christians believe the same construct as people who believe in aliens. And then those people are going to be like, well, I ain't never nothing I ever heard. Right. And then they're going to get mad. Yeah. And then it's not well received. But
and then how dare you?
And then, yeah. And then so think about generations of not bringing up, like, hey man, like my mom keeps telling me to not listen to Black Sabbath, but what's wrong with Black Sabbath? Well, they don't know because they've never listened to Black Sabbath.
So they can't explain.
They've never watched Friday the 13th. They've never seen Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Or that movie's not scary, but like, you know what I mean? Any
Yeah.
scary movie. They haven't listened to Sabbath. Because here's what happens. People like us are going to church. We're sitting there. We're being good little people. We're not killing anybody. We're doing what we're told and learning how to behave. And all of that is good. All of that is good.
Sure.
But then we do go out and we listen to Kiss or AC/DC and we go, man, this don't sound like people that want me to go to hell. This just sounds like some people that are drinking beer and doing cocaine and having fun.
And you're still not out killing people and turning over chairs and robbing people and all the bad stuff.
You know, and
after you listen to it.
Here's another big piece too, man. The hippies actually ended up being right. Love and peace is what we needed. It really is. You know, and I mean, there's bad sides to all of what we're talking about. You know, but there's also really good stuff.
I don't have it figured out at all.
No, me either.
No.
So that's why I ask, man. I just know that's probably
crazy?
why people are there. And
I would imagine that our conversation has been, what other word it could be, but gentle.
Yeah.
And there would be, I'm sure you could find enough people in America that would listen to this and be very upset at something we say.
But hey, man, if you get upset, if you're this far in and you're still listening and you're upset, you might be my kind of people, man. I don't, but
I'm truly of the understand. I'm in a place in my life where not a lot gets to me in the sense that I've made the realization that life is way too short for a lot of the things that we trouble ourselves with. That's number one. But number two, my kids.
Dude, that's huge, by the way.
It is, man. I wish that
really
we could all
huge.
get to that point. And because you stop judging people. You stop, not to say that judge people, but you know what I mean. Like you already have an opinion of someone based on one sentence they say or how they're dressed or something, you know, and we're all guilty of that, you know, being a human being. That's what we do to identify threats or to identify a potential mate, you know. I mean, that's what we do. We're always judging people just based on the way they look.
And for any female that doesn't understand what you just said, that whole like,
hey, I completely mean that just scientifically.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like as a man, I'm thinking about walking into the gym and you do kind of go through this like size up thing.
Yeah. Which
like that has to be from where we evolved out of the, I say evolved as in, now we got to go into that, I guess, huh? Like, however,
I love that conversation.
Yeah. You know who said it the best?
We should have started off.
No, we're gonna.
What about for another episode?
So the way we adapted, we're gonna save the evolution thing. So the way that we adapted as men, we don't have to look around. Like I was saying, I said it earlier. Like we don't walk outside and go, man, somebody's sitting out here ready to gun me down, like Wild West. The same as we don't walk in the gym and think somebody's going to come flying out of nowhere with a boulder and just bust me in the head.
Yeah.
Like we just don't think like that anymore.
Yeah.
And again, to your point, we need to get the whole world there because there are still places in the world and even in America, Southside Chicago.
Yeah, we need people.
That people, they don't have that.
We need people that have competitive spirit. That's how you have special forces in the military. We need those people. We need, for industry, we need some, but the mentality that I have, it's not passivity at all. It's not having a passive nature. It's just I'm at a point in my life where I've gotten to the place that I want to be, and I've seen some things now that I've settled my mind, right? That people deserve peace with their neighbor. People deserve to be treated with respect.
Correct. 100%.
All the time. I mean,
you know, and that's
they don't have to
sorry,
earn.
I'm not gonna
they don't have to earn your respect. They don't need to. Well, they don't need to earn my respect because I need to be in a position where I give them respect right off the bat.
But do you think that's what those people? Do you think like transvestite type people, homosexual people? Do you think really what they're fighting is the same stuff that we're saying, like the church groups who continue to just? I'm not even saying I condone any of that. Like I'm not even taking a stance in this conversation at all. But what I'm saying is, do you think that you have people that just want to be freaky? They want, or and be a dude, be a gay, or be in a relationship, or they're just like us. They don't like, but they're like us, but they just don't like girls. But you have a group who are full of sinners too, who are doing shady deals, cheating on their taxes, cheating on their wife, doing all the other stuff. And the thing that kills me, bro, and I'm going to slide this in here because I think I'm making this up. Prove me wrong. Divorce rates among Christians and non-Christians exact same. You know what that tells me? They're all living by the same moral playbook, going back to my statement earlier. I don't think that somehow Christian people or religious people have this monopoly upon morality.
Right.
I think people who get to a spot like what you're talking about, and this is like you're reminding me of the headspace I feel like I'm getting to, where it's like I don't really know what I think about all this. Dude living inside of a whale, big fish, whatever it was, that sounds whack. I'm just saying, I've never seen anything like that.
Sure.
When I hear you say that, like you've seen a ghost, I've never seen a ghost. I don't know what I think about that. But as opposed to like forming opinions on everything that you have to feel like you just have to defend at every passing moment, like why can't we just worry about being good grandparents, being good husbands, making sure we're providing for our families, maybe continue to do whatever ritualistic stuff it is we do, and take the good out of it, or don't. But ritualistic stuff doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity to some people. I mean, bodybuilding can literally can have the same type construct. A band, I've seen it with bands, like 30, 40 people, 100 people form a little community of, especially with Facebook and everything else now, you got this little community of people, of like-minded people. And, I had a really good friend of mine that wrote his thesis that I still need to read, but I am going to read it. And it's on the Drive-By Truckers as a band, and how they have these guys and girls, folks, that just follow the band, and they've basically become like their own little church. They support each other. They come in need. And like what his point was, is we have these other, I'm assuming his point based on what he's told me. I haven't read it, so I don't know his point. But his point, I've said point a lot.
That's okay.
The point of the whole deal, I think, of pointing out that these other groups have similarities. So at the gym, bodybuilding, it could be jiu-jitsu, karate, taekwondo, whatever else, sewing club. Like you have people that are exhibiting what I'm telling you that I feel like the church isn't exhibiting, and that's fruits. So adding value because of community to someone's life. So your mom may have ended up at the church that she ended up at because she really needed somebody. She needed somebody to talk to. She met some people that like seemed like they were kind of, into it. But maybe she went farther because she was looking for some. I don't know your mom. I'm just saying like a person in that.
I know what you mean.
But like maybe she found something there that she needed, and it wasn't necessarily the message and the rules. It was the people and what they were offering.
Well, there's only 3 types that go to church. All right, I'm going to go there.
Do it.
One, you're brought up in it, and you couldn't imagine not doing it. So, generationally, right? Then you got the one that was hurt in life somewhere and is seeking something bigger than themselves. So they find it. And then you've got that one who goes to church because it makes them feel good. And there's no real righteousness involved. Not to judge, it's just true. Church life and life is separate. I think those are the 3 types. I think in Christianity and just, again, my humble opinion is that the truth of the matter is that we can label all people in America based on their, their life, the way they live their life, whether it's, someone in the Church of Christ could look at my life and pick out some things that are immoral, right? Some things that I'm in danger of losing my soul over, right? But then you got someone who is on the other side that could judge me and say that I'm a bad person because, my wife stays at home and she keeps our home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good.
That I'm looked at as being misogynistic
That's really good.
or something.
Yeah.
When it's completely the opposite. My girls mean the entire world for me, and I would want them treated equally. We're all treated equally. Me and my wife are very different in a lot of ways.
Well,
we're different. We can be different. Everybody can be different. We can all be different. It's fine to be different.
I agree.
We can all be different, and that's fine. But we should all be treated equal. That's plain and simple.
See, I think some of the derivative of our problems as a society comes from like the mishandling of the 60s and the 70s and a lot of the racial problems and tensions. I think you have the Deep South and a lot of there's a guy, man, that I don't know him, but he's a historian per se of the Church of Christ, and I would love. My wife is dying for me to reach out to him and try to talk to him.
A lot of information in his head, I'm sure.
But you start having groups, and I know within the Churches of Christ there were some early statements of Christian leaders who even had hands in some of the bigger education institutions that I've named for Churches of Christ that are on record making statements about a black preacher named, I think his name is Marshall Keeble. Marshall Keeble, I think is his name. Or is that the cookie? I don't know, man. It starts with a K, whatever.
Keebler.
Black Church of Christ preacher. Not that hard for anybody to Google. Go look it up. It's either Keebler, Smith. I think it's Marshall Keeble. But there was another preacher that he literally made a statement in his sermon saying that white women of the congregation were seen going up and holding his hand and embracing his hand after his sermons, and that their husbands should get control of them. And I read that, and that was literally, to me at that moment, the most racist thing that I've ever read. Like, I was just like, man, I don't even think like that. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is there's skeletons in the closets of all of these groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to continue on and pretend that some of this stuff isn't going on, and to pretend that you don't have members who are junkies or on drugs or addicted to porn or all this other stuff, and continue to stand around and literally talk about Jonah and the whale and Noah and the ark and Jesus at the well, and like selectively choose those, and we like to bring up things. When I say we, Christian groups like to bring up things when it, like Sodom and Gomorrah and
Sure.
things like that, when it pertains to them. But what they would not like is for me to call them the present day Pharisees, who have all the knowledge in the world but don't apply any of it to actually helping anybody. But what we do really well as groups, all groups, not just Church of Christ, what we really do well is take our American money and send it off in American fashion to help something that we're not in front of, that we don't see. It makes us feel good. We can keep cheating on our taxes. We can keep, buying up our cell phones and our Gucci purses and everything, you know what I mean? And keep going in our little world, and never realize that what we really could do is take the love and grace, regardless of whether any of it's true or not. Like, stop arguing about any of that. Take the grace and love that we know makes the world a better place, and just start figuring out how to do it with your neighbors and your friends, man. It's really that easy.
Yeah.
I don't want to disagree with people at the gym and fight with people and do all that. I don't want to.
It's exhausting, man.
It is. It sucks. Like
It's true.
It is. It really is true.
And to think that I've got a better opinion than somebody else, man.
Yeah, I don't know anything. And
Life's
I
too
am an
short.
opinionated person. I really am. But I also,
I got so many things wrong with me, man. I've got so many things that need improvement. And that's the other part, is that, God, man,
So then
somebody judging me.
the audacity of it.
Take a look at
That's
your
exactly
own life,
yeah.
man. You've got a lot to clean. We all do. You know how I know that? Because we all know, and we should at least know, that no one knows what goes on behind closed doors in a person's life.
I do want to say one more thing, and
Yeah.
I'm getting off the religion thing. I've worn it out. I
Okay.
think I've exhausted my. So I think an argument that someone would make listening to this would be that the framework of the way we're dealing with morality and the framework in which we're saying that, like, good and bad and all, like that is derived from Christianity. And I do think that that's true. And I do think that's the part of the baby, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, again, I think regardless of accuracy, I think it would be hard to say that Christianity hasn't been a positive influence on some people and hasn't risen society or made society a better place. But what I think you could also argue is that there's plenty of places that it's made it worse too. I think there's plenty of other cultures that we've stuck our nose into that maybe didn't need us. But then there's other places that did, man. Like, there's other really poor countries where we've gone as a group and we help. So we need to focus on the help piece, where we do help, where we can help. But we also can't forget about our own communities. And
I'm a big fan of Halloween, you know that, scary stories and all that. Well, I'm a conservative thinker, but I better be very grateful for some progression. And I can give you an example, is Salem witch trials. And that was America.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
people pointed out that these people were witches and killed them,
Dude, I saw a study.
and took their stuff. And
some people believe that they had like a fungus growing on their food and like basically they were tripping balls. Like some people
Maybe.
believe that.
Probably. I don't believe for 1 second that there were actual witches. There's a lot of studies that show that it was basically a lot of theft. The sheriff, they would take property. If someone was convicted of a witch crime, being a witch, then they would, after they killed them, they took their stuff and it became the property.
Does that sound familiar?
Dude?
I mean,
So,
I can see that bumping into our realm.
So thank God for some progression. People, I think that we could all benefit.
Dude, you should read that book,
Each
Enlightenment
other.
Now by
You know
Steven
what I mean?
Pinker. I'm telling you, it's a rough
I
read.
might do it.
That dude literally, I think, put a dictionary beside him and was like, all right, I've already said that word one time. And like, I mean, he kind of,
I like it.
but I guess if you're going to write a book on enlightenment, you have to use a lot of huge words. But that was the only, and I don't mean that like in an ignorant way, like, man, they used too many big words for me. It's like, sometimes, man, he was just it felt like he was just trying to be a hipster about his words. But the message is that if you look across the board on happiness, like the things that you like, just agreeing on what would make everyone better. So means, access to clean water, safety, like take all of this other stuff, even like the freedom of religion should be one. Like, we're knocking on the churches of Christ and everybody else, but I don't see any of these groups showing up at the other church ready to club somebody over the head if they don't come believe the right way either. Right. And we have had that in the past. It's called the Crusades. Like, you're going to become a Christian or I'm going to take this sword and I'm going to stick it through you.
Yeah.
And my current understanding of some of the different sects of Muslims is that there are still some of those groups that think that you still have to, what's it called? I'm going to say the word wrong, but you basically still have to gain more followers, whether that be by word or by sword. Now, I don't think they all believe. See, they're going to go through a similar revolution than what we've went through. Like, this is what people that are currently Christians, what I would call Bible thumpers, don't understand, is that people used to thump harder than they did. Like, they're little league thumpers at this point. Like, those people that started it 100 years ago, they were mega thumpers.
Yeah.
And then you start having little pushbacks from society
Very
on
dangerous.
things like currently or recently, things like, or in the last 50 years, things like interracial marriage. It's not 50 years. It'd be longer than that. 67 is when it was. I had somebody tell me that the other day.
My dad went to segregated schools.
So 60 years. In the last 60 years, I think that's a safe.
Yeah, he was bused to different schools because of desegregation. And that was my dad's lifetime. I mean,
bro, I was bused to schools because of desegregation. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and there
like they still had busing going on in Nashville when I was.
Well, and two, I don't know. It's one of those things where if someone who is a conservative tells me that liberal thought, all liberal thought's evil, I'd tell them that they're foolish. If a liberal told me that all conservative thought was, was bad, then they would be foolish.
I totally
as
agree
well.
with that. I totally agree.
There's, man, I just
Hey,
don't
man,
see what has
they're
to be
both
so
pimps.
adversarial.
They're both pimping
It's a business.
Assad. It is a business.
Yeah.
Like that, going to the preacher thing, man, to wrap that piece up from what I said earlier. I mean, you have a person who's literally getting paid to give a message, and then, like, it's like making a copy of a copy of a copy is what I see. Like, you have this eroding of the message. It's continued to be what they want to hear, what they want to hear, what they want to hear. Like, don't tell me because I'm questioning this stuff and literally asking you if you have an answer. Don't get mad because you don't have an answer. You didn't think of it. I'm thinking of it and just posing the question. I'm not even saying I'm believing anything. I'm not saying I believe any of this that I'm saying. Like, here's a good one. This one stumped me for many years. I got another one after this too. If God is 100% good, which, you know, groups would say that he is, he's absolute 100% perfect. I think the Church of Christ would agree with that statement, that God is good 100%. Okay, if that's true and he created everything, then how is there evil? Either he decided to allow evil, but then where did it come from? So then you get this mentality, you get this idea of, like,
I got the answer.
Well, is God, you know, and then, but he's also omnipotent and he's omniscient. So he's everywhere. So it can't just be the absence of God, because how could you have the absence of God if there's nowhere that God can't go? But anyway,
Sure.
if that's where you're going. But anyway, so my point is, what people would say is that, well, maybe God isn't 100% good. Maybe he is just a being like us that can make mistakes, and he's just of a higher intelligence that we don't understand. So to us, he's God. But, like, dude, that one right there, that was years of working through what I thought about that and thinking through that.
It's a tough one, man, and I know.
So most people would just say, like, okay, well, just don't believe in God. Like, if you're saying all that and you're having so many questions, just realize what other people think they've realized, and that's that God doesn't exist. But I haven't gone that far. I'm not even saying that I don't think God exists. I'm saying that it's possible that God does exist or that he doesn't exist. That's all I'm saying.
There's a guy that has a YouTube channel I've been following for the past year or two, and I really like his stuff, and I can't even tell you why, honestly. I really don't. It just does something when you...
It's in your algorithm, bro. That's why you like it.
But it's called Hollywood Graveyard. It's a guy named Arthur Dark, and he does these very well done videos where he goes to... famous in the sense that they could be poets, they could be politicians. There's very few politicians he's ever had on there, but movie stars, TV stars, athletes, you name it. And they just go to their grave sites where they were buried and tell a little bit about them and then move on to the next person. Well, you're looking at like Jimi Hendrix, for instance. You know, they went to his grave and talked a little bit about him and then moved on to the next one. And then right there in that ground is Jimi Hendrix. You know what I mean? He's gone. He died.
But that's his.
But he's right there.
It's crazy.
That's him, and he's in the ground. And I don't know what it is about it, but it just seems it digs into my mind a little bit about the absolution of it. Everything about Jimi Hendrix. This is everything about Wylie. Well, one day the light's gonna go out, right? The everything about Craig is right here. We can talk about our legacies all day long, but you're it. And your light's going to go out one day.
Yep.
So you're in the ground. You're physically locked up in this box under 6 feet of earth. And then what? Right? So forever, my whole life, I've thought, well, you either go to heaven or hell. That's it. Well, what if I'm wrong? I'm saying that those types of things, if you want to learn to be able to help someone that's struggling with some sort of pain and they need salvation, if you're talking to someone that needs relief from whatever anguish that they're in, and God can help me, right? Can you prove God to me? Well, I don't know, because I don't believe in him anymore, or I do believe in him because I found out later in life. So anyway, what I'm saying is, you need to question these things, because you need to find it out yourself. You need to find it out. You can't just assume because you were raised in church that this is the way it is. Well, the Bible says, well, screw the Bible. Tell me give me an example of how did you succeed?
I think that's a problem right there, is that, again, I'm not making a choice for somebody and saying that it's either right or it's wrong. And I don't, it's not my place. All I'm telling you is like what I'm doing, and that's, I want to know, I want to ask, but what you have a lot of people that are sitting out there telling people how they should live and what the Bible says that maybe have never even read it themselves. They're not really that studied. Now, there are some that are really, really intelligent. My brother-in-law, he's same type education that I have. I mean, they go to church all the time, and man, he's super intelligent on the Bible. Now, if I took a little while and studied up, I mean, a lot of it comes back. I mean, for me, it's like the knowledge is important of the book. And I'm not even saying that I'm not going to study it anymore. I think there's definite knowledge and there's definite good that's there. Now, is it up here, or is it just a collection of items that basically got us through antiquity to here to the new revolutionized age? And that is where all my questions are. Like, what is this? Are we, and I think there's several really good points that I can make right off the bat. Like, on day 1, God makes the light, but doesn't make the sun till day 3. Well, I'm sure there's some verse or some little tricky way that they go, oh, well, God did blah, 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 blah. Okay, but that's not what it says.
Right.
Like, it's not what it says. Like, we're reading what it says, and you're the one that's supposed to be doing exactly what it says. But what it does say to do is love people and have grace on people and be kind to people. It doesn't tell you to tell them how long their skirt has to be and what size straps. And I made this point to you the other day, and this is when I knew we were going to have a killer podcast, because it just came out. And I said, man, there was a time, and I'm glad you said the foot washings, because you guys still do them. So Churches of Christ would say that the foot washing piece, it was a cultural item. It was a show of humility, all that, what you were saying, but it doesn't pertain to us. It's not a culture. We don't do that. We don't do foot washings. It was a cultural thing. We don't do it. But then they would say that the head coverings piece, same deal, is a that women keeping their head covered or whatever. That's a cultural item. But then there's the women in leadership, like the women in worship piece. And so this was my question. I'm not even saying, from a Church of Christ perspective, I'm not even going into a Church of Christ saying, you guys need to have women. This is crazy. That's not what I'm saying. Right. What I'm saying is define for me what makes something cultural and not. Like, who made that decision that something could be cultural and that something would not be cultural? Because when you can define that for me, how that decision is made, then that lets me know whether I can trust some of the rest of this stuff. And here's the deal. They can't, because there's probably one or two in a congregation that could, do the Olympic gymnastics, the biblical gymnastics of telling you why to your satisfaction. But like on a human rational level, me to you, can you really tell me the line in the sand between what's cultural and not? It's all subjective from one person to another person, or based on, their education of the scriptures and interpretation of the scriptures. And that's where you get back into what I'm saying, which is there's this huge board of all these different groups saying all these different things, but looking at the same book, and you got the rest of the world thinking they're idiots. And then you got people like us going, okay, I think all of y'all are idiots, but like, let's focus on the good in what everyone's doing, and let's focus on the good pieces of religion, and let's focus on that, because I can honestly say that there's a lot that I feel like helped my life. I also feel like there's a lot that's held me back in certain ways too. Like this, Like, deciding what you're going to say and what you're not going to say. Like, there's always this filter there, like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to go to hell. Like, all that, what you were talking about to begin with. That's real, man.
Yeah.
And that's the part that makes teenage girls go off to college and get tramp stamps over their booty cracks. I'm telling you. It is.
Yeah. I don't know.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, and we can save this for the next one, actually.
Prove me I'm
How
wrong.
long have we been going? 3 hours?
Yeah, we're about to run out of tape.
Yeah.
We probably got about 15 minutes. We're going to have to wrap it.
Okay,
We're literally about to run out of tape.
So I would really like to.
This is good,
to do
by the way.
another one. I'd really like to do another one.
You're welcome
later.
back. You are welcome back.
Um,
I will tell you this, man. I want to get this out there too, man, because I'm tired. I'm tired of all this. So when I was getting my podcast together and stuff, man, like I don't know what I'm. You don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
You just jump in, right? And so I really wanted. I've had a couple hiccups, and I really wanted certain friends of mine, people that obviously like we're close. You're an intelligent guy. You've had a lot of crazy. Dude, we didn't even. Bro, we said 2 topics and we did 1.
I know. It's crazy.
And so anyway, I really want to get people who have opinions and to regular on and talk about stuff. Like, this is really powerful to me,
I
man.
would not be here if you were hateful and angry. I wouldn't. Opinions are great as long as they're being kind to people. Dude, life's too short, and to argue and be angry, it's so exhausting.
I totally agree, man.
But yeah, we'll pick it up on some other things next time.
But man, this is so the religion thing. Hopefully, we still have some religious friends after this. But I'm serious, man. The reason I went hard too.
I would hope.
I've had too many conversations with too many people that have the same background sounding as us, and I see it too many times to not talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I would really hope that people would be. I can't imagine. Again, I couldn't imagine how anyone would be upset with the things that we've said, because we're just speaking from the heart and we're taking some life experiences. I'm not looking at this side and this side. I've lived both,
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody to get upset, but that's probably going to happen anyway.
Get upset. I had a friend of mine. He gave me the best advice. He's like, I hope you offend somebody.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if we're just sitting here lip servicing and saying everything else that everybody wants to hear, that's fine. But, I mean, I think there's some real, like, you were talking about how much you love your kids and you love your grandkids. There's not, like, all of this, even having the conversation, even thinking through these things is because I don't want to blindly lead my family into something or blindly lead my family away from something that's really going to help their life.
Right.
And I didn't finish this earlier. This is the only thing in my head that I haven't tied off. You were talking about writing your book and doing all that. And the one thing that I can really appreciate about you, and I didn't get to this point on my buddy on the first podcast, but I'm going to say it about him too. Like, the people that I'm picking, like, here at first to bring on not only are really close friends of mine, but like, I've known you for a long time and you've always had like multiple jobs and you're like doing multiple things at a time and you're not just satisfied with one thing and then just sitting back and playing video games, or you're not just satisfied with like your one state. And that's the thing that I think we're really peeing off a bunch of baby boomers. I got this whole theory on baby boomers too, by the way, but I think the your generation, and then there's like, I mean, I'm technically a millennial, but I still don't see how I was born in 1983, how I have anything to do with a kid that was born in 1996.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
it's weird.
Like, I feel closer to like your type generation.
Sure.
Like, I still have friends that I text them and they either never text me back or it'll be like a month.
Yeah.
But then like I text my nephew and it's instant, man. Like,
Yeah.
there is a line there. And I still really appreciate the dudes that like they're hard to get a hold of. Like, I got a Marine buddy that I'm wanting to get on here that used to live close to me, and yeah, I'll message him or call him, and he may never call me back. Like, there is going to be a day where I'm going to call him, and he's just never going to call back.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, man. That just, like, we remember a world, and we may be the last generation that remembers the world before everybody hooked up.
I know, man.
And one thing that I wanted you while you're here to vouch on, and I wanted to say this, like we were talking about, like, if you're frustrated, if all this kind of makes sense to you, you don't really know what to do, blah, 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 whatever. Like, how can I start to think clearly? Not that I have the answers, because I don't. But one thing that I can look back on and honestly say was one of the best things that me and my wife ever did, and I know you remember this, we got married and we didn't have a TV.
Oh, yeah.
Like this TV hanging above me right here that's not on.
Yeah.
That's almost never on.
Kid movies, man.
That's the only thing we play on is kid movies.
Yeah.
Maybe Netflix every once in a while if I'm just being honest. But that's the only TV I've ever bought since we've been married. Do you know that? I've been married for 15 years, going on 16 years. And I've had that TV. We've never had cable TV. And, like, the reason I brag on that, like, people, I remember when I brought it up to you or, people at the paint store, they'd be like, man, is that like a religious thing?
Yeah.
Like, what, you like Amish or something?
Right.
Like,
right.
But it wasn't. It was just like we were doing other things. I was starting my career. Ashley was starting her career. And, we just didn't have time. We were out trying to learn how to play tennis. I was learning how to play tennis. I'd never played tennis. Dude, I even tried skateboarding. I went and bought me a skateboard, went to the skate park in Memphis, and just learned how to drop in ramps. Like,
yeah.
And I admire people who are 45 years old, 50 years old, whatever, starting something new. Why do we stop learning at 18 years old if we don't go to college, or we go to college and about 21, 22, we just stop?
Yeah, dude, if you're staying still, you're dead.
You're dead.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah. And, it's important to me, and I really do appreciate.
Well, I appreciate that.
You being that way.
And that's cool.
And be just, there's people in the closet about their stuff. Like, if you're into scary movies, you might think like, yeah, man, people probably think I'm a weirdo. I'm just not going to mention it.
I'm just going to give it a shot, man.
Or like you don't talk about having a wall of sound,
Yeah. And there's people that talk about it. That's one of the motivations is that you hear people talk about, I could write a book about my life. Well, do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. It's a slow go, but
yeah, I see people. I always like. Do you do that thing where you like match people up on the ages? I'm making sure we're not running out of time. We got about 9 minutes. Like,
well what if? Oh, go ahead.
But like people that are about your age, and you look at them and you go, God, how'd they do all that by now? Like, or like I'll think about Jimi Hendrix dying at 27, or Stevie Ray Vaughan dying at 30, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, they accomplished so much. So like, hey, man, I'm not Stevie Ray Vaughan and I'm not Jimi Hendrix, but, I never stopped trying. I mean, with our personal businesses or any of our personal endeavors, or even just having conversations, just getting this stuff documented in case my kids ever want to see like who my dad's friends were.
I think about that all the time. I think
like
about
we
that
have
stuff.
the ability to do that now.
I think about that stuff a lot, dude. Legacy is one of the topics we're going to bring up on the next time.
Well, dude, you got anything else?
Can we reach or no?
Yeah, we can reach.
Is it reach?
Hey, it's our show. Hey, we could do a third set right now if we just wanted to. You're going to have to come back, man.
That's
this was
true.
good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
We didn't even get to the horror movie. One thing I did want to say about the horror movies, man.
This one was the important stuff about what's meaningful to us. The next one's going to be pure entertainment and fart noises.
The same thing happened with my buddy the last time.
Yeah.
Like you just get talking about like what's really there and what you really feel like you want to talk about.
Yeah, and next time it's going to be pure nonsense and just
get a fog machine.
Fog machine. I've got one.
Yes, you do. All right, man. Wylie Jones, thank you. It's been killer.
Yeah.